Hello. Wait, I'm hearing me, but not you.
Yeah, as usual, there's one production glitch every time, so I keep forgetting to enable my mic. But I was saying, welcome back. We missed you last week,
I
and
appreciate
I
it.
know the audience missed you because they had to watch me play video games for half a day, which I'm sure was riveting and captivating.
I poked in for like a minute.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, it was awesome. Much appreciated. Oh, so, yeah, today is Lots, Bins, and Cereals Day, right?
Oh my.
Yeah, oh my. Yeah, we'll go through each of these in detail. I guess we should do intros first for anyone that might be new. So, my name's Andy, and on the right side of your screen is Matt, and we are with Atlas Precision Consulting. We're an independent services provider of Profit 21 for Profit 21. So we do customizations, reports, data conversions, business rules, external applications, integrations. I don't know. What am I forgetting, Matt? You are always better at this list than I am.
Everything P21 top to bottom, including with a side of Magento.
Yeah, yes, with a big side of Magento. So I'm glad you mentioned that because I think like we don't talk about that enough.
I do. I bring it up all the time.
Yeah, I mean, we have our own in-house resources for doing Magento, and the reason that we went that route was because we kept seeing customers struggling with different contractors for P21 and e-commerce butting heads, and nothing's ever getting done. And oh, it's this person's fault. Oh, it's that person's fault. And we're like, we should just like cut out the middleman, and let's just be able to turnkey the whole thing. So, not that we're selling anything, but we're selling something. If you are looking at going to e-commerce or overhauling your e-commerce or whatever, you're on P21, you're looking for an end-to-end solution, we could be a fit for you. We specialize in the strange, weird, and mystical. So, nothing scares us off. I actually was on a call with a customer yesterday, Matt, that they were trying to go over this business process, and they wanted my feedback about how they're going to interact with a unit of their business that's international. So they're kind of walking me through it. I'm like, oh yeah, no problem. And you would just do this and this, and this is kind of how I would think about this, or maybe this way, whatever. It was no big deal. And the guy was like, you always say it's no big deal. Like we haven't scared you yet with all the crazy stuff we've come up with. And I said, well, I mean, I'm an advisor and a consultant. If my answer was, oh my God, this is insane, I have no idea how this is going to get done, I wouldn't be in business for very long. So,
No, and it's not to say that sometimes things just can't happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Where there's a will, there's a way, and where there's enough money, you can almost get anything accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, it's our job to figure it out, right? I mean, and sometimes, yeah, it is painful, and we're the first ones to tell you if we think that the juice isn't worth the squeeze. But sometimes it is, Yeah. All right. Are we ready to jump into today's real topics?
Yeah, I'm actually excited about it just because both of our backgrounds in P21 revolve around lots and bins.
Well, maybe we should talk about that first. I mean, that's a great point. Why don't you give us the 50,000 foot on your background with lots and bins and cereals, and then I'll do the same.
Yeah, I mean, I come from my background before here was the HVAC industry, and we dealt with a lot of steel coils, whether it was for manufacturing that we did or just straight out selling the coils to be used by other manufacturers. And it's always important because there's all kinds of certain data that we had to record with lots, whether it's, heat number, decimal thickness. There was like 14 different coatings or there's all these different things that come into play. And for us, it wasn't so much like some people deal with more things that have expiration dates and things like that are We had to use it more for um, I don't know the right way to a QC system, right? So if somebody had a bad batch of something we made or something we sold with those numbers in there, we could go back and find everything that was produced with that. We could find everything, who we sold it to, and just kind of help keep track of that stuff. We didn't use lot costing, but I know a lot of people do that. Serials were big for us for large equipment that we would sell. So that way, serials are great for, in my opinion, for the larger things, right? The things that you need to know where they're moving through and what they're being done with. And obviously, bins, you want to find stuff. Bins is the best way to do it. Not that I enjoy wireless warehouse or anything, but I do enjoy knowing where my inventory is. Yeah, I know we've had customers that were more in the, um, chemical, not necessarily chemical, but solvent or whatever, that dates are important, adhesives, and shelf life matters.
Yeah, for sure. So my background originally is in the foundry industry, at least as it relates to lot tracking and things like that. So I was in construction and then went into distribution, and then from distribution went into manufacturing, and all of the manufacturing that I did for probably the first half of my career was in the foundry industry. So this is valves, fire hydrants, pipe fittings, municipal castings. That's like manhole rings and covers, curb inlets and stuff like that, frames and grates. And so for us, we needed to be able to take a product and trace its lineage all the way back to the raw iron that was used to create it. And so you would have traceability on the product, and then from that you would know what heat of steel or what heat of iron that it was made out of, or whether it was an ingot or scrap or whatever. So that's what my first exposure to it was. And we had it happen where we had like a bad batch of gate valves, and it was the craziest thing. They were extremely hard to close, and we had to be able to recall them and go find them all. And fortunately we were able to do that. But it was just coating thickness. Like, right, there's a washer right at the top of the valve underneath the stem that turns, or the operating nut, and the coating was like just canted a little bit. It was a little thicker on one side than it was on the other, and it was throwing the washer out of alignment and making the gate valve almost impossible to close. And then after leaving foundry, I went to fastener, and they're specifically construction fasteners, and we also did manufacturing, so we were keeping up with our own lots, and then also tracing lots back to the steel on construction fasteners. These are things that are like, they're building LNG plants, bridges, buildings, important stuff, right? And you had to be able to have different types of traceability all the way through. So yeah, lots have been in my blood for 20 years because of that, and bins because of warehousing. Cereals we never really had to deal with so much when I was line of business, but since starting this, obviously it's come up several times, and we've seen it for things like medical equipment. We've seen it for we used to work with a company that does like golf course maintenance equipment, like big mowers and stuff like that. So those are obviously serialized, as are the accessories that go on to them, and that is all traceable for warranty purposes. So there's a lot of different reasons you might want to use these features, and there's also a lot of different reasons you might want to stay away from those features. And that was sort of the genesis of why we decided we wanted to do this topic, because the easiest thing in the world to do is turn one of these features on. The hardest thing in the world to do is live with turning one of them on. That's
or trying to change your mind after the fact
and unravel. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, for anybody watching, lots specifically, in bins to a point, but lots specifically complicate allocation.
Yep.
And, allocation is one of those things that I think most people, that one of their first complaints about how P21 operates with inventory is allocation, and lot allocation can just complicate that even more, depending on how you have some settings set up, if you're auto allocating or if you're allocating at print or whatever. But it still can cause some issue. And then stuff like adjustments, all that kind of stuff, it just gets more complicated.
You're fragmenting your inventory. I mean, you're adding you are now adding one or more sub layers to your inventory every time you turn one of these features on. And so that, Matt, you're 100% right. That is by definition going to make it more complicated to manage, because now there are more features and attributes that you have to deal with. And so, I like when people say the S word around me, cereal, I start interrogating them like Perry Mason style. Like, why do you think you need this?
Right.
And prove to me that you really need it, because I know what happens when you turn this feature on, and we need to make sure that you're going to be getting value out of it. So I'll give you a great example of this. We worked with a company that did medical equipment refurbishment, and they would source this stuff from all over the place. They needed to be able to know, because apparently there's a huge black market for stolen medical equipment.
I'm shocked.
Who knew?
That's shocking.
Yeah. I'm gonna there are so many political jokes I could jump into right now, but I think I'm just gonna leave those aside for a while.
Soldier on.
Yep. Just fight through it. But anyway, so they had serial tracking turned on for all this stuff, and it was just like, it was grinding them to a halt, because this is like serial tracking for things that end up being components on a production order. It's horrible. It's disgusting. And so we finally ended up like having that conversation, like, why do you have this turned on? You are literally killing yourself. And it turns out they just needed to know when they received this stuff in where they sourced it from, in case it came up as it was stolen. They would need to be able to report to the authorities, well, this is who I bought it from, right? I'm like, well, then you don't need serial tracking. We just need a way for you to record all the serial numbers that came in on a PO receipt, and it can be completely disconnected from your inventory.
Right.
And so that's what we did. And it like changed their company overnight when we were able to shut that off for 80% of their items. So I know I'm on a soapbox about it, but I'm passionate about it, because I see landmines get stepped on these three subjects all the time, and I feel like somehow people are just getting advice. Oh, you need lot tracking, just turn that on. Hey, there ain't no just turn it on when you're talking about affecting every single human being in your company that uses P21.
Yeah, I mean, we see it all the time. You hear a consultant or a maybe direct person, hear one thing. Oh, we need to do. Oh, well, that's this. You need to turn this on, and it's like, okay, why do you need this first?
Yeah.
Okay, well, how are you going to use it second? Then we'll figure out what we need to turn on or not turn on. Yeah,
and look, I mean, we're probably a little different than everybody else in that we will fight back. If we're in an engagement with somebody, or if one of you out there listening to this decides that you want to try to engage us as a consultant or whatever, hey, first off, thank you. We're happy to have you as part of the family. But on these topics, we're going to put up a fight, and we're doing it because we don't want to see you slip into something that is going to cause you 80% pain for 20% or less gain. And that's, so it's done out of love. I don't know any other way to say it. But,
and we don't want to have to roll it back.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because that's even worse. But anyway, well, all right. Let's hop right into it. And So I gotta get back in the bookmarking groove. I didn't have to do that last week. And all I'm getting is unable to add stream marker. So I am extremely nervous now. Unless I added it the first time and just kept clicking. I don't know. All right. So let's talk lots. And we'll go to system settings because that's kind of where the conversation is going to start. But I do want to talk about, I want to spend some time talking about, like, do you even need to turn this on? Okay. So what's in a name? What is a lot? Okay. So again, like I said, if you think about your inventory from the perspective of, I have this bulk quantity of goods in my inventory, and the nature of the product, maybe because of shelf life, maybe because of traceability, but something about that product it requires you to keep up with what batch. Like, these things come in batches, basically. And so what batch of material is this particular item from? And most of the time the product is marked. Not always. Like fasteners, it's not always marked. It's on the packaging, but it's not, the fastener's too small, so it's not necessarily on the fastener itself. So that's the idea behind what a lot is. So if you have lots, if you have batches, if you're dealing with shelf life, things like that, then you're probably in the realm of needing lots. Now, kind of like the cereal example that I gave earlier, which every time I say that just makes me hungry. But
what I had for lunch?
Well, I don't have any here at the office. But I think it's like the way that I always phrase the question with customers is this. It's like, okay, well, we have lots. Okay. How much do you care about them? Like, what is the reason that you care about lots? So good example, fastener industry. When we were manufacturing fasteners and cutting them out of steel, we were lot tracking the raw steel. Okay. So we're buying bundles of 40-foot bars and they're being received in and they are being lot tracked with the manufacturer's lot number, heat number, and all of that. And absolutely, when we manufacture a fastener, we needed to know what heat of steel we used. That, no question. But if you think about it, we didn't truly care what heat of steel it was until we made a fastener out of it. We didn't care about it while it was sitting in inventory. It didn't matter because what lot it was did not inform what bar of steel you're going to pick off the rack. You're going to pick the first available bar. You're going to bring the tag with you. That tag travels with the manufacturing order the entire time. When it gets to the end, you look at that tag, you record the heat number. This is what we made it out of. So we cared about lots on our raw material, but we didn't care about them as a mechanism for inventory management. We cared about them as a consequence of manufacturing. I know I'm taking a long time to draw all this out, but what I'm saying is, even if you're tracking lots, it's like, okay, I need to know what the lot is, but do I really need this to be part of my inventory management system? Because again, you're adding complexity and layers. And, you have to remember that this stuff is usually going to allocate on a first in, first out basis, or lot complete, however you do that. But it's going to try to get the oldest lots out of inventory first. And if you're not rotating your stock, or if that doesn't even matter because the steel's not going to go bad just sitting there on a rack, like, why are you introducing this as an element to your inventory management strategy when it doesn't have anything to do with how that material is going to move? So if you only care about lots on the way out the door, then maybe you need an alternative strategy. You know, we've done, Matt, I think we either proposed this or we actually did it, to where we had a customer that was like, I don't really care about what lot it is. I just need to know what lot that I sent the customer. That's it. I don't care what I have in inventory. I just need to know when it goes out the door, we sent this lot to the customer. Oh, that's easy. We literally put a user-defined field in the shipping window on the line, and they could just sit there and scan the barcode for the lot and put it into this UDF, and we would know every order, that line, this quantity, that was the lot number. And that's all they cared about. There's no reason to make that part of inventory management if that's all you care about.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like using it like a cereal, but for more than one quantity. That's
exactly right. And it was such a more, and it was one of those situations of, this is just in case we ever need it. This is not core to our business. It's like, we just need to know this in case.
Yeah, and where I came from, we needed it for on the sales side as well, because you'll get somebody that calls and says, hey, I need a 5,000 pound max coil. So our salespeople need to be able to look in the system and go, okay, well, here's 3 different lots that are almost 5,000 pounds. We're going to grab this one because it meets this other criteria they need.
Yeah.
But like you said, we knew that going into it. But if it was one of those things, we only need it for this, then let's figure out how to solve that than turning it on everywhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, like I asked that customer on the when we did the pick ticket thing I was like, how many recalls have you done in the past 10 years? 1. I'm like, so you really want to go down the road of putting friction in every inventory transaction forever over something that might happen one time in 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, it's everything. Everything bringing in stuff to your system and taking it out. Whether it's PO receipts, shipping, transfers, adjustments, cycle counts. I mean, everything. Bin movements, everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So again, I know we're kind of harping on this, but we're harping on it because we're trying to... I hope that what we've communicated in our live streams, Matt, I really truly hope that we've communicated this since we've started this endeavor. Don't just turn stuff on.
Right. Just because
think
it's there
critically
doesn't mean
about it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And we're not, this isn't one of those things where, because I know we have our soapboxes of things we just don't like in P21. I'm not saying lots are bad.
No, yeah, not at all.
But you better make sure you actually need them before you turn them on.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're just creating a mess for yourself for no reason. So.
And if you have 100 employees, you just created a mess for 100 people.
I mean, if you do fasteners, like we've walked into places where people are lot tracking what are called 258s. So that's grade 2, grade 5, and grade 8 bolts. These are the ones that you buy, like if you go to the hardware store or whatever, and they're the little, just the standard hex cap screws and nuts and stuff that you would get at a hardware store or wherever. Okay, yes, they come in with lots, but no one cares.
Right.
Like they're common fasteners. No one gives a crap what lot they are. Right. So why would you introduce that into your process? But anyway, all right. I feel like we have sufficiently covered. Please think about it. Okay. So what? I'm picking on you because you show up here enough that I feel like like
you're asking for
it. You are at number one. You're asking for it, and number two. So MTA is what? I hate having dead air though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little song and dance.
Okay, so this is a governmental authority, right? All right. So this is a scenario. Oh, that's New York. Okay. This is a case where, like, okay, we have a customer or a set of customers that demand this. It is non-standard to the industry and does not affect 95% plus of our other transactions. That is what I'm kind of like. I know I'm projecting a little on you, Soyo, and I apologize, but it's my live stream, so I get to do that. This is a case where I would say, guys, is the juice worth the squeeze? Should we just look at an alternative way to record lot information? Okay, I'm just going to be straight with you. Like, if grade 8 bolts are what's being used to construct railroad tracks, I'm very concerned. But if there is an alternate mechanism to record those lot numbers that doesn't involve them having to be part of your inventory management system. And I think there can be. If it's just for this one customer, if it's just one special set of reporting, I'm sure it's New York. It's a lot of volume. It's a lot of money. Handrails. Okay, different kind of rails. Okay, that I can see.
I was like, man, that's not going to stay on there.
Yeah, I'm gonna. We need to have I need to make a phone call. I'll be right back. But anyway, I think there are some alternatives that you could look at there where you could say, look, we're going to record the lot on the way out the door, but we are not going to make this part of our inventory management system because it's terrible. So security fasteners and someone put no lot in, and oh my God, we can't do anything with it. You don't have to hold back with us. You can tell us how you really feel. So we should talk. I think, and the answer may be that you have to keep doing what you're doing, but I think that there is always a path to say, hey, we've been doing this. It is a headache. Is there a different way to meet the requirement without causing an imposition on the rest of the business? We appreciate you being here, seriously. Okay. So once you decide to decide that for a product, and this is a product level setting, okay, you're going to enable this. Like, you're going to enable use lots just to make the option available everywhere else in the system. But once you have enabled lots, then you're going to choose which items are going to track lots on an item by item basis. And we'll get to that in item maintenance. The next choice that you're going to make is how you're going to assign lot numbers. Now, this is another one where I am, how do I want to put this? I tend to go against the grain. Matt, is that a fair statement? Do I tend to go against the grain? Wow,
No
your silence is
no comment.
Incredibly reassuring. Thank you so much. So most of the time what we see is people defaulting to just automatically assigning lot numbers. And then what they do is they put the manufacturer's lot number in as an extended lot attribute. So it's like, let's take this issue of complicating our inventory and let's see if we can like that's not enough data to enter, so let's see if we can multiply this exponentially and enter more data every time we do something, right? I am a staunch opponent of extended lot attributes. Like, you have to drag me into it.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, we will get into it.
That's a pet peeve of mine.
But I try to look for ways to avoid dealing with extended lot attributes, because again, it's more of the user that has to feed the beast. That's what it is, and my frustration with all of this is that the people making the decision to say we're going to impose this on our system don't have to live with it most of the time. It's the receiving and the pickers and people doing adjustments and trying to fill orders, and it's just your mainline users that you count on every day to make you money, they're the ones that have to live with the decision. And I feel like a lot of times they don't have a big enough voice in the process to say, hey, do you realize that if we go down this road, it is going to triple the amount of time that it takes us to complete this transaction? Triple it from forevermore. Dude, I'm getting wound up. I can kind of feel it.
Yeah, I sense that.
And you leaned back like a long way away from the camera. You're safe. You're like 2 hours away. All right. Anyway, so all of that to say, automatically assigning lot numbers, essentially what P21 has come PR voice. I'm here for you. I'm here for you. So yeah. So automatically assigning lot numbers, there's a sequence counter in the database, and it's just going to go retrieve the next one. And so if the last lot number assigned was, in this case, 26, the next one's going to be 27, then 28, 29, 30. So I am generally, it depends on the industry first off, okay? But to the maximum extent possible, what I prefer to see people do is take the manufacturer's lot number and use that as their lot number. Okay? So when the goods come in to stock, you're going to receive them in, and there's a lot barcode on there, hopefully. If not, then you just have to key it. But you would scan it or key that lot number, and whatever that lot number is, that's your lot number. It is intuitive. It makes sense. And it is
labeled.
Yeah, it's already labeled. It is the path through this that requires the least amount of data, because you're just taking what you already have and incorporating it into your system. And I think, in my experience, that works really, really well. Having said that, there are instances where it makes sense to use system-generated lot numbers. Here's the first one that I can think of. We have seen cases where, like, you will order from your vendor and you will receive the same lot multiple times. Okay? That's not uncommon. But what's different is, this was, I think, in the aerospace industry. What made this unique was the way that they had to interact with these vendors. They needed to be able to trace their inventory back to the purchase order that they got it from. And the only way for them to really effectively do that was to use system-generated lot numbers, so that each PO receipt basically had its own set of lot numbers. And you could work back to this lot. Yeah, we have the manufacturer's lot number as an extended lot attribute, but that's what they had to do. And then the system generated lot number was that additional level of traceability that got them back to the PO receipt and eventually back to the PO. Okay, I get it. I will tell you this. That was one division of a larger company, and the larger company did not need that. And so we actually wrote business rules that said, if we're doing a receipt for this location, automatically create a lot number. If not, we're using the manufacturer's lot number. And then we had those items were the only items that had extended lot attributes, and the rest of them did not. So again, a lot of different things to think about there. All I can say is simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. Keep it as simple as possible. Please, Matt, get on the soapbox, because...
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, again, we're not painting everything with a broad brush that everything should be done this way or that way. But it's the questions that matter. Again, where I came from, we had all this different data that we recorded on the coils that came in. And my argument was, I'd almost advocate storing some of that data in a different database for lookup purposes than to have to deal with it in P21. You have the data, but does it have to follow you everywhere in P21? But again, just have the conversations. Don't just go, lots, yes, we need that. Make sure you understand. And I'm not going to throw stones at... Okay, I'll throw a little bit of stones. There's a bad thing that happens in a lot of companies, and every company is probably guilty of it, that people sit around a table and decree this is how we're going to run this without ever bringing anybody to the table that is actually going to have to deal with the ramifications of those decisions.
Preach it.
And it's important. I mean, people are your biggest resource.
Yeah.
So,
and your most expensive.
And your most expensive, yes.
You know what? I'm about ready to just pull out all the stops, and we'll see what happens with the algorithm.
Here, I'll throw this out there. Lots are a choice, not a default.
Yeah, no, that is absolutely right up there with the stockable flag, right? But
yep.
Yeah, look, I mean, that's the whole key to it. Now, I know, I mean, obviously, Matt, I was intimately familiar with what you guys were doing when you were implementing P21. A Joan of Arc chant, that's amazing. And I'm 50-50 on the way that got done. I really am. I could see arguments in both directions. Mm-hmm. I think I would probably lean toward let's keep this out of inventory management. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing in that case that would have pushed me that direction more was this is really informational. Like I need this information sometimes.
Right.
And there's and I only need it in a few places. I don't need it everywhere in the system. Right. I don't really care about it when I'm doing a this or that or that. Right. I do care about it when I'm trying to sell one. I do care about it, whatever. And so I think that because of that, yeah, it might have been worth the extra effort to say, let's spend a little bit more money. Let's create this quote unquote off system so that we have it, but it is not core to the way we manage inventory. And that, I'm telling you right there, that is it. That is the whole thing.
What I am thinking of right now, though, is we did spend a lot of money to deal with receiving
no comment.
Lots.
You didn't spend it with me.
I didn't spend it with Atlas. We didn't spend it with Atlas. But we spent a lot of money to deal with it and still shoved it all into P21. So, anyways, let's talk about lots and how. All right, you need to put a mark on the
because this is the part we're going to delete out.
Yeah. Why are you using lots? What's wrong with you?
Oh my goodness. Okay.
And again, there are 100% use cases for using lots.
Yeah, and we're all for it when it makes sense, and we're all for helping you get there in the best way possible. But we're also all for not punishing every human being in your company to accomplish something that's very menial. I'll never be in favor of that, ever.
Another cliche, time is money. How much time are people going to spend touching lots when they don't really need to?
So I'm going to give the quote that I always give when I do presentations on production and secondary process. Okay? Whatever your business process is, and you have to translate that to P21 or whatever. But whatever business process that you sit around a table and dream up and come up with to figure out how you're going to manage your business, if that process cannot be competently executed on by someone making $15 to $18 an hour, then your process sucks. That's the truth. If the people you're depending on to get it right are going to struggle to get it right, then your process sucks and you need to go back to the drawing board.
You are not setting them up to succeed.
No, and when you set them up to fail, guess who really fails? Those failures don't roll down, they roll up. Mm-hmm. That's why it's kind of like I always preach, put your best people in receiving. Because at least if it gets put away right, there's a 50% chance it'll get picked right. If it gets screwed up in receiving, there's a 0% chance it goes out the door correctly. I'm glad we found the right lever to pull. Okay. Since we're preaching and ranting, let's talk about extended lot attributes.
Okay, but let's break that out as when to enable, because that is...
Yeah, the stream markers are working now. I think I was just over clicking.
That's never a problem with you.
Yeah, no comment on that either. All right, so let's talk extended lot attributes.
Okay.
Okay.
You want to go through the system settings?
Yeah, I feel like we're getting a little bit off track. So yes, I'm going to have like 10 stream markers that have no meeting today, but that's okay. So automatically assigning lot numbers. Okay, great. Lot information at vessel receipts. That is situational. That would be if you're bringing containers and you know what those lots are on the go in, then sure you could.
Which we're going to do vessel receipts and container receipts.
At some point, I think we have to. Yeah, it's on our list. It's in our production calendar.
Yeah. Now I'll make a note about the next lot number. It will pre-populate. It doesn't stop you from overriding.
That's correct. That is correct. And it doesn't stop you from saying, well, I know this is lot 26. I'm receiving more of it. I can override it with an existing lot number. Again, what you're doing when you do that is you're saying, hey, I'm comfortable in my business having someone in receiving make those decisions. And that's not to say that people that are in receiving do a bad job. That's not what it is at all. It's just, are you setting them up to succeed or fail when you do that? That answer could be different in different organizations, but it's the right question to ask. In any system, any software design, anytime you're engineering software or engineering process, there's one cardinal rule that if people would just follow, they'd have a lot less stress. And that is this: whatever the right thing to do is for your business, that should be the easiest thing to do. If it's not, fix the process. Okay, moving on. Integrated lot bin tracking. Definitely I want to talk about this. So this is the concept of saying I have lots and I have bins. And you can run like that where you say, hey, we have 100 of these and 50 are in this lot and 25 are in this lot. And then we have it spread across these three bins, 30, 30, and 40, and never shall the two meet. You won't know which goes with which unless you physically go look at the product. When you turn on integrated lot bin tracking, what you're doing is creating another level of association that says we have 30 of this lot in this bin. Okay. If you're using wireless warehouse, I think you have to have that on. Honestly, I've seen one system configured to have lots and bins without integration, and it was an accident. Once we turned it on, they were like, oh my God, this is so much better, because you can do everything on one tab instead of flipping between two different tabs. So that's what that's about. Lot bin tracking for item defaults, is that going to be enabled as an option? And then what's your default primary bin? No bin is the default there. Okay, where are we going? Are we going to extended lot attributes now, Matt?
Whether the other setting.
So, oh yeah, you're right. There's some other settings here. Auto assign lots to allocated quantity. Okay. This is the concept of saying, so people, a lot of folks, I don't think realize there's two types of allocation in P21. There's soft allocation, and then there's hard allocation. And soft allocation.
It's all hard.
Well, it all falls under the category of miserable allocation. Yes. But with soft allocation, essentially you're tying up a quantity. You're preventing the ability to oversell the item. That's a good thing. I know people hate it, but it's a good thing. Like I have customers routinely like, well, I don't like allocation because I want to be able to sell this. I have it. Yes, but you've already promised it to someone else. So what are you going to do? Yes, it's going to make you break that promise. It's protecting you from you. But then you have hard allocation, and that happens when you generate a pick ticket. And that is where we're saying, okay, we're tying up 50 of these, sure, but it's this specific 50 that we're tying up, either because it's in this bin or this lot or whatever. When are you going to assign the lot? And a lot of times, Matt, I see that auto assign to lots for allocated quantity is turned on for a lot of systems, and I think 9 times out of 10 they don't need it, because again, they don't really care as much as they think they care.
Right.
You know, why tie your inventory up down to the lot level if you don't have to? And so, again, I think that's something that you can do. And then how are you going to assign those lots if you turn that on? So you can do expiration date complete. You can do first in, first out. You can do first in, first out complete, and then you can do lot complete. Now, this is really just about saying, like, lot complete is saying take the oldest lot that, or I think FIFO complete is take the oldest lot that can actually fill that quantity. It looks like my camera froze up. Fantastic. Let's see if it unfreezes.
Just you.
Just me.
It froze as soon as the thumbs up happened.
That's still going on?
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's stuck on your hat right now.
All right, well, let's... I got to fix that because I can't stand it. It makes me insane. Okay, let's do this, that. Come back to the light. Oh, yeah, it's like totally freaked out over here. Matt, please keep talking about lot assignment.
Where was I? I don't have the option drop down. Yeah, your camera's just toast.
Yeah, it just completely got wrecked. I'm gonna try to fix it. I'm
personally not a fan of auto assigning lots or auto allocating lots, I should say that, because it makes it harder when you have to roll back that allocation if you need to, because not only are you having to unallocate, you're going to have to dig into the lot to unallocate, then instead of just unallocating the soft allocation at the line level. I don't know where to really go. I'm struggling.
I know. I apologize. I'm getting there, sort of. So I know I have it fixed in the control room. At least I've got it.
Cameras?
Yeah, I switched it to that one for the control room, but I really need it to work.
Yeah, because typically you have 2 different cameras going.
I do, and so I'm going to throw this one for a minute because my other one's just completely missing from the list. Here we go. Yeah, I have no idea. So, okay, I'm going to do a little bit more talking on this. Can you cover lot cost and prompt for lot attributes? Just cover those check boxes, and then hopefully we'll have this sorted out by then.
Yep. Yeah. Now, lot costing, if it's important to you to know when, and I have an issue with lot costing. Shocking. The system, my legacy system I came from had lot costing at the item level. So there were some items that we were concerned with tracking lots, but not costs for lots. But there are some that were both. At P21, if you have this use lot costing turned on, it's across the board. Like every single lot will have its own cost rolled in there. Now, the issue with that, it's almost like each lot has its own MAC.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Or I guess it still does FIFO too, if you have your overall pricing. Is it still?
No, this FIFO, that's a great question, because a customer just asked me this like a week ago, of how lot cost interacts with FIFO and this and that and the other. And I think that was what the question was, but the reality is this: the FIFO cost is held completely separate from everything else. So as you're as you're peeling stuff out of the inventory, if it's going based on FIFO, if that's what your inventory costing is set up on, that's what's going on.
Okay, so it's basically its own little silo.
Yeah, it's all of that stuff is completely siloed off in the database.
And some people that doesn't matter, some people it does, because maybe I bought this lot. If you're in a industry, whatever product, it's very volatile as far as the costs. Maybe it does matter because you can maybe, if you have a customer that's super price sensitive, you can find a lot that has a lower locked in MAC or FIFO that you can still make your profit you want to, your margin on, but you can still sell it to them at less. It's just more annoying to me. So It's one of those things, and make sure you actually give a crap about lot costing before you use it. Always prot for lot attributes. If you are using, even if you don't use extended lot attributes, there are other lot attributes that are part of that, where you can enter in notes, you can enter in, and we'll go through all that. We'll show what all that looks like, and that will, even if you're not using extended lot attributes, if you have that checked on, you're still gonna have to go to that same window, which is just more button clicking.
Yeah. Where you kind of, I think, stray into that is like expiration dates and stuff like that.
Right.
Yep.
There's a bunch of fields that I would say probably 90% of people never use, but there are some like expiration date or maybe notes, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Include lots with 0 on hand and inventory.
I think that's like displaying it on like pick tickets and in inquiry windows and stuff like that.
Yeah. Obviously print lot expiration date, that's pretty self-explanatory if you are using that. Lot warning, if you set it to 30 days, it'll give you a warning and I don't know how that warning works. I don't know if that's just a pop-up.
So yeah, the way that it works is like, if you're like, let's say you're in order entry and you're allocating lots at OE, okay? And so you go in and you put in the item and it allocates a lot that's going to expire in less than 30 days. You get a warning right there telling you, hey, this lot's going to expire in less than 30 days. Do you want to continue or do you want to pick a different lot?
Okay. There is a difference between just tracking lots and tracking lot/bin. Like it's just more information. So there's some settings that are, just like when you're setting up a wireless system, you can set it up to either empty a bin first or make sure no matter what, find the lot that I can consume this whole line on.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't want to make them go pick it from 3 different lots. Find one single lot that I can get all 100 I need from. That's the single bin first. Or is it the pick full?
Bin allocations to a single bin first. Yeah, that's where it's going to try to get you to. It's the opposite of pick clean, which is let's clean up all of our small quantities. It's just saying, hey, if I have an order for 100, find me the smallest. Find me the bin that has the quantity closest to 100 or more.
Use lot requirements when importing orders. I don't know what that means.
I think that is just like when you do an import of an order, are you going to respect the lot assignments and all that? Now, I will say these are the system settings. There are additional, maybe we should just go there. There are additional versions of these settings in item maintenance. Man, yeah. Coming down off the adrenaline rush now. Actually, the camera skitzing out was probably a good thing. It got my blood pressure back down a little. Okay, let's see. So right off the top, item maintenance, you're going to choose right here whether or not you're going to track lots. And if you do, then the lot tab becomes available to you. So all of those checkboxes that Matt was just talking about, you can choose right here that, those are the settings that I want to use.
Wait, There's now a checkbox use lot costing at the
item level. Yep, you can override at the item
When
level.
did that happen?
I don't think it's been around too terribly long. So if I uncheck the system assignment, now I can get right back into it on an item by item basis. I just had this conversation with somebody in the tile and ceramic industry where, like, again, every industry is different, but in their industry, natural stone lots are very important because you're getting into, what the product looks like on the floor. And if you mix lots of natural stone, it could look very different. In ceramic tile, it's all manufactured to look exactly the same. So it doesn't matter. You don't need to tie up lots that quickly for ceramic, but you do for natural stone. So this gives you a mechanism to do that. Mm-hmm. So just realize that that's out there and that you don't have to pick something system-wide and live with it. And then you have the lot attribute group, which is kind of what the run-up is to this next section of talking about that. So are we ready to dive into?
Yeah, I there's a couple. I haven't had to use this stuff as an end user for over 2 years now. So a lot of this stuff I don't dive into until we're doing stuff like this. And so like this, some of these checkboxes aren't familiar to me.
Right.
Which is interesting. But let's go on the lot attribute groups, which I don't know if you have it. Do you have any set up in here?
We're going to find out.
It is not a required field.
No.
All right, let's go, because we got to create some anyways. Well, there's a couple. There's lot attribute.
Yeah, there's 2 layers here, right?
Right.
You have the attributes themselves,
and then there's the group,
and then the groups. And so what you're saying is an attribute is something like a manufacturer's heat number or some dimensional thing or country of origin I've seen.
Yep.
Heat number for the steel, whatever. Those are the individual attributes. And then you combine those
or group them
into groups, right? And you say, okay, this item needs to have this group, which includes these 1, 2, or 3 attributes. Okay. So lot attribute maintenance, we're going to start right there.
Are you doing your timestamps?
The preachy rant just kind of completely threw me off, man. Okay. I don't know that we have any attributes in here. Let's check right quick. No, we do not. Okay. Clean slate. Where do you want to start?
Well, let's just start with heat.
Okay.
This is one of those screens where it's not clear that you have to create the ID. Sometimes in P21, the ID is just a system generated number. Sometimes it's something you actually have to create. We've said it in a bunch of different places. Make sure you are thinking out what you're going to name these things. Don't just throw stuff in there.
Mm-hmm. So this one we're going to call heat. Then you can also put some data type fences on it, which I think is good because it keeps people from miskeying things if it's supposed to be numeric. Give some thought to maximum length. I think 255 is probably the upper practical limit. We'll just go with 50. Validation required. Okay. That is a very fancy way of saying force user to pick from a drop-down box. That's what that means.
You don't want that.
No.
Because
certain ones you do.
Right. But we came into like if you're a country and origin, I could see it being useful because there's only going to be 3 options. The issue that we had was we needed it for a thickness.
With infinite possibilities.
With decimal, multiple decimal thicknesses. So you can't say, and that's what the valid values down there below. If you did that, you'd have to fill those out. And so like say it's from 19.01 to 21.05. And it can be any of those with 0.01, 02, 03. You would have to create a value for every single one of those.
Yeah.
To do the drop down. We found that out very quickly that is not a real way to do that. Now, again, if it was, matte, flat black, if there's like 5 or 6 settings, sure, and you want to make it a validation, then it won't be freeform.
So this one we're just going to do freeform.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll save that one. I want to specifically do country of origin because there's 2 ways to look at this.
This one might not be a bad one to do the drop down, just so they can.
Well, so there's 2 ways to do that, Matt. We can say it's a country of origin, and I think if you do that, it creates the validation. Let's see. It creates the validation, but every conceivable country is on the list.
Oh.
I think that's how that works.
Okay. Well, let's check that out then.
So we're going to do one like that. And then let's do COO2, which is the way that I would prefer to do it. I just want to make sure I'm correct. But essentially, I would rather say validation required and add in, whoops.
You only put 2 characters.
Yeah, well, that works. US, CN, IN, and TW. The point that I'm making here is I don't want to pick from a list of 200 countries.
Right.
If I'm only really buying from 4 or 5.
Right.
It's just harder for the user.
And to me, this is a perfect example of an okay one to use for drop downs.
Mm-hmm.
If it gets to where you have 40 or 50 different possibilities, you're probably gonna have to just live with a freeform.
Anything else we want to add?
What are the data types? Remind me.
The data types are date, decimal, integer, and alphanumeric.
Okay.
Anything else we want to add? Oh. Got to put that one in. The manufacturer's lot number is the common one that we see. And this is the one that I typically recommend. Just use this as your lot number. For most companies, that will work just fine. Okay, so those are good. All right, now we need to build a group to add these attributes to and decide more things about them, right? So, I don't know. What are we going to call this? We'll just call it lot default.
Yeah.
So now we're going to start adding these attributes. So we would say we're going to add heat. We're going to add COO, COO2. Whoa.
That was weird.
That was extremely weird. And then we're going to add MFG lot. All right. So a few things that you have here is whether or not this attribute is a lot determining factor. And then also, is it the default traceable factor? That has meaning when you get into how things are displayed on screen, how they show up on forms. Like the default traceable factor has some meaning, which again, to me, if that's the case, just use that as your lot number. Right?
Yeah, well, I had an issue with it because, okay, I need 2 different things to display when I look at lots. Oh, well, you can't do that without some heavy customizations of some tables and...
Right.
So if you are somebody that, hey, well, every time I look at a lot, I want to be able to see... Because I'll tell you this, trying to get to these lot details or these attribute details is not simple. It's not. It's not just something you can drag and drop with an easy dyna change.
You
Anyways.
you can set up some default values for this.
Mhm.
I'm not sure that I know why you would, because you're just setting yourself up to get bad data in your system in a lot of instances. I'm sure there are reasons for it. I've not ever really messed with the transaction type. Did you ever mess with that?
No, I have not. I'll say this about defaults. If something is 90% of the time the same, then you shouldn't be recording it.
Right.
Why?
Manage the exceptions.
Yes, manage the exceptions.
All right. So now we have the lot default group, and we can now assign that to the item.
And did you go over the required flags and stuff like that?
Where?
On the lot attributes in the group, there are you can make. Not everything is technically required.
Oh, you're right. I missed that. So yeah, you also can choose, like, okay, we're not going to require the country of origin, but we are going to require that you put something in for the heat code. Now, let me tell you what happens in practice when you say that an attribute is required, but it really doesn't apply to all of your items, and you still put this lot attribute group on all those items. You just end up with a lot of raw material heat codes called period. Just one period. That's it.
Yeah, if you're going to go this route, if you're actually going to use lot attributes, you need to make sure you're fine-tuning the groups for those particular items. There's no reason to use... Don't try to make a lot group be a catch-all.
Yeah, and I'm going to speak. So yeah, this one's for you. I'm just going to speak from the heart. If you, as a management team, turn stuff like this on, and you don't really need it, and then you're scratching your head 6 months later, and you don't understand why you have 5,000 manufacturer lot numbers that are period, the reason is because your operational team hates you. Because you are forcing them to do something completely useless.
Purchase order checkbox. That's not something I've ever used before.
I think I want to say this is about whether or not that lot attribute is available at the time of PO. I mean, we can check it and find out.
Yeah, that's interesting to me. Because what I want to do is I want to place a PO for an item. I want to receive the item so you can see.
Let's do it.
All the Did you save the item with the group on it?
I believe so.
Okay.
We can go back and check. Yes, sir.
Now, these attributes are not required for tracking lots. This is only if you're interested in tracking more than a lot number.
And you really, really, really need it because it is core to your business.
Right. It's part of your advantage.
If you turn it on unnecessarily and you have a mutiny inside your organization, you deserve it. Okay, let's see. All right, sorry. Purchase orders. Okay, so we'll go to location 10. And B&D 01901-00. Whoa. Oh, buyer ID. Whoops. And let's see, those are going to be $5.
I'm like the whole.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Is there a tab that we're not seeing? I'm curious what this at PO means.
So am I. So far, I don't really see.
I don't see anything changing lot wise because it would be at the item level. And there's not a right click.
No, I did the right mouse button. I didn't see anything of interest.
No, let's just print it, save it, whatever.
Okay.
I'm just curious to see if it's going to pop anything up. I have no idea what that box does. So.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it displays the note.
To make sure that they provide documentation on those
Okay, that's
attributes.
cool. That's actually cool. I like that.
Damn it.
Yeah.
I'm
sorry.
I'm going to have to relent and say that I like that.
Yeah, that's a...
But only because you're putting it off on someone else outside your company.
Well, yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's actually a cool feature. I'm with you. I like that. I think that's cool.
But that also puts into point, make sure you, because that's your description. So make sure your description actually makes sense. If not, it's going to say, please provide RM...
HC or something like that.
Yeah,
They're going to be like, what are they high? Is there a gas leak there?
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. No, okay. That's okay. All right.
I'll give you a pass on that one, P21.
Yep. You get a pass on that one.
It still doesn't make up for how hard it is to deal with lots.
Yeah. For that little tidbit, now let's go receive said PO and see what that feels like.
And here is the trap that most people fall into, and this is not just a P21 problem. This is any software demo, ERP demo. Somebody will walk you through this process showing you, oh, this is how you do this thing. They only show you doing it for one line.
Yeah, and one way to do it.
Right. Now, receive a PO with 100 lines on it that all have lot track.
Yeah, see how that
tell
tastes.
me how see how that feels, because it's a lot different.
All right, so we're going to do our 50, and now we have to go in here, and, okay, here's the lot. And,
all right, now this is the first time we're seeing this screen on here.
Right.
So, Mr. Clicky. So, and you clicked, and you just took my, do the little eyeball thing for me.
Jeez.
All right.
Picky.
Well, this screen is very important, and you're going to see it a lot. This is the lot bin tab. Now, you notice that it auto-signed our lot. It auto-signed our receiving bin, probably because we have this set up to have...
As a default for the location, yeah.
Right. Here's the most important things with lots and bins. The total SKU quantity to post. Whatever that number is in the middle of the screen there has to match what is going to be at the bottom of the screen for you to save any kind of transaction. Now you can split into multiple lots and multiple bins, but that middle number has to match the bottom number. And when he put that 50 in and hit tab or enter, now you can pop up the other screen. You know, because we're just
my hand's off the mouse. I don't want to get in trouble anymore.
All right. So the extended lot info is the stuff in this grid. Everything else is if we had checked to what was it, auto launch attribute, whatever the
always display, yeah,
you would just have nothing in that grid if you didn't have a lot attribute group. You would still have comments, and then you would have, I love this, the random user defined 1 and user defined 2 fields, like, because it's so hard to create user defined fields that we need to pre-populate some random user defined fields.
Yep.
And then you have a bunch of, now I do find it interesting the number of lots. I was never able to get that to, I was never actually able to understand what it's doing. I'm only doing one lot.
Right.
So what does the number of lots have to do with it?
I have no clue, man.
So, anyways, bunch of date fields, you know, yay. Like,
well, again, this plays if you're tracking expiration dates mostly.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So I do want to talk about this field here a little bit. So in the lot table, on the database, you have a date created. So that is going to be the system generate, that's like the moment that it was inserted into the database. Then you have a creation date, which can be modified here.
Mm-hmm.
The creation date is the field that determines the FIFO order. It's not
Okay.
date created, it's this one.
Okay.
So just so you know. All right. Where do we want to go from here? Did I lose you?
Sorry, I was
Oh,
just-
okay. Gotcha.
No, so a little behind the curtain. I can't drive right now because I had surgery on my foot last week, and so I needed some stuff. So my wife, kindly enough, decided to have Target deliver some stuff. I just happen to be on a call right now, so it's now my groceries are now sitting out at the front door.
Well, so you just like, do you need to take a moment? Or can
Yeah, can we do a quick early break?
Yes, we can. So let's
can go about an
break
hour and
for 10 minutes. And is that enough time for you?
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to break for 10. We'll come back and jump right back into. Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Wow. So it doesn't want to miss anything. That's amazing. All right. Cool.
All right, I'll be right back.
Yeah, so I reset the timer midstream when the power died because I'm like, we got to start getting our stuff together. So it's back on for the moment. This is the second time today that it's done this. So fortunately, our server stack has a really great UPS. So we've got I think 2 hours of backup time on the battery. Enough time to get the generator up here. The generator's on its way so that we will not be stopped by a power outage. I refuse. I won't be muzzled.
Am I coming through on the sound?
Yes. You look good as far as I can tell. Everything looks fine. So if you're with us.
I heard me.
Okay, cool. The real question is the stream still going?
Oh.
Yeah, I think it looks okay to me.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's a little weird looking on the control panel in YouTube. Okay, there, I think it's running again.
It seems like the delay is a little bit.
It's probably going to take a bit for it to catch back up, but I think we're okay. Y'all, this is it. This is live streaming, right? What are you going to do?
Where were we?
Contemplating the end of society? Is that what just happened?
Sounds cool.
Okay. So, extended lot attributes.
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow. All right. So we have, we talked about the creation date and how that works. And now, Matt's correct. This area here, if you were not tracking extended lot attributes, you just wouldn't see this part.
Which is interesting because the whole window is called extended lot info.
Well, details. All right. So we're required to put in a heat number, so we're going to do that. And then country of origin. Oh.
Here's a nitpick of mine on these fields. The drop down arrow is in every single one of them, even if it's not a drop down.
Yep, I know.
So it's very misleading.
So we'll get those in, and apparently the country of origin thing didn't do what I thought it was going to do.
Which is interesting because what does that country of origin checkbox do then?
It must have something to do with how the lot documentation stuff works. I don't know.
Like, will it let you put something in there that's not a real country, like XX? Like,
sure. I mean, let's try that.
Yeah. So it's just got to be something.
Okay.
Important.
So we hit OK. And then at any point when you're looking in the system at stuff that's related to lots, you can right-click, view additional lot elements, and bring this information back up.
And in a lot of the screens that you pull it up, it's editable.
Mm-hmm.
So, or is that only in lot adjustments that it's editable?
I'm not sure. We'll find out as we go through.
Yeah.
All right. So that little bit of fun of filling out 3 or 4 fields or whatever is going to happen every single time you receive an item that uses extended lot attributes, or lot attributes rather. I'm not a fan.
No, again, you walk through this one time, go, okay, I get it. No, I want you to do it 100 times on a PO, and then get it.
Yeah, and then make a decision as to whether or not this makes sense for your business. I think actually that's how it should work. It should be like you enable the system setting, and then it takes you to a mock-up of this with a 100-line purchase order that you have to receive and successfully complete before the feature actually enables.
That would be actually pretty cool.
It might be. It could be a business rule project in there. Anyway.
And again, this is my own issue with at the I mean, you have 100 of these lots now that you have to go put away. If you put 100 lots in,
Yep.
that you're now going to have to transfer 100 times.
Yep.
So make sure you really, really, really want to do lots.
Yep. And when I, decide that I've had enough of running and checking every box and, I'm just tired of it, then I'll just do this to you.
Yeah. And here's something I want to point out. So you'll notice there's a lot tab, there's a bin tab, there's a lot/bin tab. If you have lot/bin
Integration
turned on, you don't use the lot tab anymore.
Right.
Transaction window, because it's combining it into one. Now,
Correct.
if you lots at all and you only had bin tracking, you would have the bin tab that you would have to put the info. But we have a default bin, but if we didn't have a default bin, we would have to change that. Now, the other thing,
I want to just check one thing.
see if it remembers the info.
It does, because it didn't prompt me. Okay, well, that's fine.
Yeah, and so if 26 was a lot you had received last week and it came in, if you were using the manufacturing lot number like Andy was suggesting, and you put that in there and it was like, oh, that lot already exists, if you were recording any of that data, there could be an issue with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're concerned about expiration dates, or if you're concerned about creation dates, or there could be things that, because the creation date is when the lot was created, not when you're adding,
not when you received it necessarily. And so we see a lot of people trying to use this for inventory aging.
Mm-hmm.
And when they keep receiving into the same lot over and over, that aging is not correct. It just isn't.
Yeah.
So,
but this is how you see how he's got it split into two different lines. Again, that bottom quantity and that middle quantity have to match. That if we're trying to receive 50, the bottom has to say 50 as well.
correct.
But you can break it up as much as you want in the middle.
Yep. Okay, so we'll go ahead and receive this in.
So I'm sitting here thinking about lots, and the only thing that keeps running through my head is when we're going to do a conversation about physical counts.
Yeah,
And
well, that's on
how
our
much-
calendar, right?
It is, but lots will have its own little subsection in that conversation, because there is a setting that is crucial to doing lot adjustment or lot counting and physical counts.
I gotcha.
Well,
Well,
it may or may not be a soapbox.
should we go to inquiries at this point then?
No, let's do. I want to do a sales order with this. I want to.
Oh, okay.
So that way we have a little bit more to look at in those inquiry screens. If that
Gotcha.
makes sense. That's just me.
High test coffee.
So yeah, you're kind of quiet. Are you actually back? Because I'd hate to think that Andy and I are just talking to ourselves. We do that enough.
Well, we're not. There's 6 people on at least. So, hey. We're okay. We're good. Everybody else, you should get into the chat. That's what makes this more fun. All right. So
And it's like getting free support.
it really is. Or at least, listening to somebody commiserate.
Or, give you back. You can clip the video out, send it to somebody and say, see, this is what I'm talking about. All right. So
It would help if this was not a quote.
I was like, Houston, we have
This
a
is
problem.
not working properly.
Yeah. Well, actually, you know what? That matters. Lot bins are not a thing in quotes.
Nor should they be.
No, they shouldn't be. But if you're trying to quote somebody a specific lot, it doesn't work with quotes.
Okay. So in this instance, there's a couple of different ways that this can work. Danny listens to me enough.
We love Danny.
Yep. Okay. So the in this instance, we are assigning lot quantities, and I'm going to force lot 26 in there. Except that it's not available because it just apparently we had back orders and it allocated everything. So
all 50 of them.
So that's awesome. Okay, so here's the deal. We're just gonna clean that up right quick. Let's do that's a receipt. Where's PO entry? Location 10. And let's go here.
You can adjust some quantities in there.
We're gonna shoot the works here.
Because we have a lot of adjustments on our schedules.
Yes, we do.
On our list. It would be useful on this screen if I knew how many you had on back order.
Well, I'm gonna say that it's less than 10,000.
Now you can watch us struggle through the. So. A lot, because we do have a lot of customers that use lots. We in different ways, and so a lot of our test environments that we have are set up for every item to automatically track lots, which is wonderful when you're just trying to do something real quick, because there is no real quick when lots are involved. So I just find that funny that every time I got to do something, I got to adjust an inventory, I got to transfer something.
Okay, we're good. I got it.
Okay.
So from here, again, I can view additional lot elements. I cannot edit them here.
Okay, so it's just in the lot adjustment window that you can adjust the lot attributes, I believe.
Yeah, that makes sense because you don't want people doing this, willy-nilly or whatever. You don't want them to do it, period, but that's another story. Okay. So we're good there, and we're going to take this to pick ticket now?
Yeah, and I do believe that you could dyna change this screen. So the traceable factor that we had to check that box, I believe that one is able to display anywhere lots are able to display. So if it was something that that was important to, it's not on there. Might be lot attribute value. It's easier to get to than the other lot attributes, or maybe that's just on the inquiry screens.
Yeah, I know it's on the inquiry. I don't know that it's necessarily here.
So, because it does allow you to see your expiration date on the screen if you were using them. But anyways,
gotcha. All right, so okay, so we're ready to go to pick ticket.
Yeah, so you'll notice that it's only on the lot tab because it doesn't know what bin it's going to pull that, because that lot could be in multiple bins.
Right, and so this is where we're talking about we have not hard allocated down to the bin level yet because there is no pick ticket. That's going to happen right now.
Right. Unless this customer's on hold, which would surprise me.
Why not?
We just try to make it as real life as possible, people.
Yeah.
Now that's interesting.
Yeah, that the manufacturer's lot didn't print.
Oh, because it's only a period.
Yeah, but even the period's not on there. So I don't know.
I got no good answer for you.
I got nothing.
I got nothing for you.
But this is telling us lot 26, and you need to pick from bin A1 that quantity. So we'll go to the shipping window.
I despise default P21 forms so much. Like, they're some of the most efficient forms. You have a 10-page or a 10-line item order, and it turns into a 3-page pick ticket.
Okay. Credit hold is forever real.
When it becomes so
I
much,
mean,
everybody just blows by it.
I look. I'll save that soapbox till closer to the end so we can actually get through the material that we intended to get through. But I will. Here's the teaser. Done correctly, I really like the credit management system, and it was one of the primary drivers that we decided to buy P21 and run our service desk off of it. So that's the teaser, and if we have time today, we'll maybe tack something on at the end. Okay, so here we go. Now we're going to ship, and again, the lot bin tab is available to us, and there we are. It's lot 26 bin A1, and again, we can view additional lot elements, but we cannot do anything with them.
And because there's a way that, that's on the gun. You can get off the screen. If for some reason you didn't pick this lot, you would have to zero the quantity out, add another line.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't allow you to edit it.
Yeah, so it's like something like this here.
Yeah.
So we could take this lot that has some available quantity and go 10 there. Whoops, 10 there.
What are the other transaction drop downs?
The other transaction drop down.
See to the left, there's a ship.
Adjust.
Okay, so
So this comes into play, I think, if you're shorting it. If you want to adjust off the quantity that you're shorting, you can actually... Have you ever done that before? Because that actually works pretty well.
It's one of those... I'll be honest with you. I did everything in my power to make sure when anybody's shipping, they can't adjust inventory out.
Okay. That's fair.
Because...
It's a matter of scale, right? I mean, in smaller organizations, it probably makes a lot of sense.
Right.
In a larger organization where you need more controls.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and especially when it's, adjusting out a $2,000 power tool. No, I don't want just anybody doing that.
Yeah, so you have to adjust the item. So that, I think over here...
Yeah, if you change it to ship to 9 instead of 10.
Yeah, so if we short it, under shipment continue, and then I believe over here is where we can adjust off.
You have to set it to cancel, I believe.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, you have to set the disposition to cancel the remaining. Or is it, wait, no. Is it adjust?
It's cancel, don't return to stock.
Under ship, yeah.
Reason for under shipment is going to be an adjustment. We're not returning it to stock. And now I think we should be able to adjust off.
Yeah.
Yep. One from that lot. Again, I mean, if you're in an organization where you're kind of like having to do it all and you have to make these decisions, a lot of people don't realize that you can work your way through in the shipping window to get that item out of your inventory and not have to go jump to two or three other screens to make all of that work. So, all right. And then confirm shipment.
Hey, I'm sorry. I need to give me like 2 minutes.
Go.
Sorry.
All right. We will blank his camera for a minute. And now we're just going to go ahead and invoice this thing out. And there we go. And it's also showing us, hey, we ordered 10, we shipped 9, we have none remaining because we canceled it. It was lot 26, quantity 9. So there you go. That's the whole deal. So really and truly, at the end of the day, the pain and suffering for dealing with extended lot attribute or lot attributes rather, that really is mostly on the receiving side. But again, I think the point here is absolutely 100% make sure that this is something that's going to benefit your company. One of the things that I think gets missed a lot when you're looking to enable features in P21 or any system really is you hear a lot about the concept of best practices, right? And oh, this system is built to best practices. Okay, well let's talk about what that really truly means. If it's even real and not just, yeah, no problem, man. If it's even real and it's not a marketing gimmick, best practices, this is what it would look like deployed in a system. We took the accounts receivable process from ExxonMobil, the inventory management process from Amazon, and the accounts payable process from Walmart and jammed them all together into a system. That doesn't make any sense. That just because it works best for them doesn't mean it's going to work best for you. And the other thing to remember is that the way that you make money on prepackaged software is that you write something that has the broadest appeal possible, right? So you have to create your features with a certain amount of flexibility and a certain type of implementation so that anyone that uses it is 70 to 80% happy with it.
80% is where, and you know what? God bless them. God bless them for doing it, because we wouldn't have a job.
Yeah, it's easy for me to take pot shots because we do custom, and all we really do is custom. So we're not at this point just building products and trying to resell them. We're looking at very specific problems for our clients, and we're designing solutions that are very, very specific to them. And we're applying the, yeah. So having said that, if the implementation of the features, like, oh, I like the feature, I like the idea of being able to capture this data, but the implementation doesn't work for us, you got to change it. Don't just accept it because, oh, that's the way it's going to be. Yeah,
there's always other opportunities to.
Yeah.
And again,
I had a business owner of a $100 million company ask me after being engaged with them for 3 months. He sat me down in his office, looked me straight in the eye and said, okay, I need you to be straight with me. Did I buy the wrong system? And I said, no, but not for the reasons you think. And he thought in his mind what that meant was, should we have gone with a NetSuite or this or that or the other? The reason that I said not for the reasons that he thought was because the saving grace of going on P21 for anybody is that as systems go, it's one of the most extensible and customizable I've ever seen. I mean, if you want to talk about net core strengths of P21, your ability to shape it is at the top of that list. And, I routinely do integrations where we're working with other ERP systems. We at Atlas were on a cloud-based ERP system for the first few years of our existence, which had very minimal extensibility. That's why we left it. That's the cool thing about P21 is, for the most part, as long as you don't do anything stupid, you can bend it to your will and make it fit your business better, and it's not that painful to do it. That's my opinion. I mean, that's kind of what got me excited about it, and that's really what led me to believe that I could build a successful business around it.
Yeah, and again, we'll get back to lots.
Eventually.
There is no off-the-shelf perfect solution for you. If you want a perfect built from the ground up system, you're gonna have to pay somebody to build you a system from the ground up. If you want something that gets you 70 to 80% of the way, and then you have to customize the last third or quarter,
this is it.
Not a bad way to go.
It's really not. I mean, we've been successful with our clients across a very broad range of applications and industries. It has a lot of power. You just have to harness it. Okay. So that gets us through the transaction part. Now let's talk about maybe lot adjustments and things like that.
Yeah, we can do. Let's do lot adjustments. Then we do inquiries, and then WBWs always.
Okay.
Always if lot tracking is important to you for QC reasons, that report or tab will be very important.
Okay, so when we're talking about a lot adjustment, I think the most important thing to understand is in a lot adjustment, you cannot create or destroy inventory. Whatever your quantity on hand is, the sum of all of your lot quantities will have to equal that quantity before you'll be able to save. Is that a fair way to say it?
Yeah, and there's one thing in here I wish we could set up to demo, but we can't, and I'll kind of talk through part of the issues with lot adjustments. So you'll notice that there's this total quantity on hand is right underneath the item ID, and at the bottom, again, remember I told you with lots, that bottom number always needs to match your total quantity, whether it's quantity to pull or whatever. P21 has something called item rebuilds or item rebuild. It does not handle lot quantities very well. And so if you ever have an issue with a lot quantity not looking right, in one screen it shows 100, another screen it shows 120, come into lot adjustment, look at your total quantity on hand, and then look at that number at the bottom. They're not going to match.
Yeah.
Something is off. Either you have too many, the system just had some particle junk left over, and you're going to have to kind of move those quantities around. That is something I find extremely cumbersome to deal with.
So here's, and again, in what we do, obviously we see some of the worst issues, and we have run into this where the lot quantity and the quantity on hand are out of sync and it cannot be resolved by a rebuild. And this is why that happens. Well, this is why the rebuild can't fix it. Now, why does it happen in the beginning? A lot of different reasons. Wireless warehouse historically has been a contributor to that if something gets lost in the gun or whatever. But the reason that you can't always repair it with a lot rebuild is because P21 is going through a decision tree to try to figure out what to make those quantities. And it's going back and looking at data to try to understand, okay, what is the correct quantity that's supposed to be in this lot? And if it gets conflicting informations, let's say it's looking at the receipt and then it's looking at inventory transaction register and it can't reconcile it or whatever, however they've got those rebuild processes structured. If it can't reconcile it perfectly, it just doesn't do anything, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah, and the item rebuild, you can print the results.
Mm-hmm.
99 times out of 100 on lots, it'll say unable to repair or whatever it says. Go do it in lot adjustment.
Yep.
So it'll tell you, hey, because of whatever our algorithm is, we can't comfortably say this is what it should be. But now, and so essentially what you would have to come in here and go, okay, well, here's my lots, here's my bins, kind of go do a mini count real quick just to make sure, oh, here's my numbers and move them around.
Yeah.
And it's not something easy to replicate, which is, I wanted to bring it up because people will see it. And you'll know real quick, because if you try to hit save and you haven't fixed it, it won't let you fix it.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I go in here and change this 16 to a 6 and now I'm out by 10, when I tried to save it, it's going to tell you, no, the total quantity on hand must equal the current quantity on hand for the location. So it's not going to let me out of here until I put that 10 somewhere.
Right. Now, if you were like, oh, well, we don't have lot, we don't have these last 4 in lot 10, whatever, change that to 44. Or wait, no. Oh, or change it to 4 because you have them allocated.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can move that other 40 to somewhere else. But it's just whatever those numbers are, they just have to match.
So a lot of times the use case for this is just what you see on screen. I've got 16 in 26 in lot 26 bin A1. I've got 10,000 in lot 26 in the rec bin, and I want to combine those lots either by moving everything off the receiving floor into A1 or vice versa. And so what you would do, boy, I should have set up numbers that were a little easier to do in my head. What's that? 41 is what that's going to end in. So
Yeah.
10, wow, 10041, and then 0 this. And so this is effectively a bin to bin transfer. So I'm combining everything for lot 26 into a single lot.
You could do the right. I think if you do the right click lot or lot attributes on here,
Mm-hmm.
I believe this is the screen where you can.
They are
so
editable.
So you can come in here and go, oh, Andy forgot to put in the real manufacturing serial.
He didn't
lot.
forget. He was
Yeah.
exercising malicious compliance.
I was trying to be nice.
No. I'm telling you, I have a thing about it, man. It just ticks me off.
I know.
Because in the same breath, those people will say, our people are our most important resource. No, they're not, because you're punishing them every day when they come to work. Malicious compliance.
That's your second T-shirt.
Yeah, that's it, right?
Stockable. It's a choice, not a default. And then malicious
Yeah.
compliance.
Lot attributes, malicious compliance. Period.
I will 100% wear that shirt. We go to WUG and there's some company. What is it? Rubber Tree. They make some really cool. They make like cool, like hip shirts that are still branding shirts.
Yeah.
But they look like just shirts you would wear.
Absolutely.
And not just your logo. Just. Does the audit trail show you the actual?
I do not know. I've never even looked at the audit trail on this screen.
She calls it flop tree.
Flop. Wow.
I'm not saying.
No. I think all we can do at this point is be quiet.
Yeah, let's go to the audit trail. Oh, interesting. Okay, so it showed when you fixed the
lot attribute. I like that.
But it doesn't show anything about.
It doesn't show the bin transfer, which is kind of weird.
So this looks like this is just an audit trail on the
lot of
attributes. The SKU cost is interesting. I think that happened because you did combine those quantities, but we're not lot costing turned on. So that's interesting. I think
it's still going to calculate it. I think it's a question of whether or not it's going to use it.
Whether it uses it.
Yeah.
Okay. What is quality CD? What is that?
Quality code. That was in the extended lot attributes. I'm going to look and see if it is what I think it is, but it's this thing right here.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't know what that does, and that bothers me.
Maybe it's something to do with your segregating inventory. Like, hey,
inventory quality code maintenance. That seems like a good place to start. I have no idea.
I'm assuming it's just another way to put a random tag on something for some reason.
Oh, we all know what that reason is.
I know.
Someone paid for that as a custom, and then it was released to the world like a kraken.
With no explanation
of
how
what
you
it
would
does.
or what you would want to do with this. Like how short codes only work at locations that they're assigned to the items.
Bro, come on, man. Are you still on about that?
I want that hour of my morning back, sir.
All right. So now. Would it surprise you if I told you I've actually used user-defined 1 and user-defined 2 before?
No, not. I don't have an issue with there being user-defined. I just don't understand why. Like, nowhere else in P21 does it have pre-created user-defined fields. It just doesn't. That's literally the purpose of them, they are user created fields. They're not. Anyways.
All right. Okay.
Let's look. We can do. Let's look at some drill downs, and then also let's look at this in item inquiry.
Look at me doing the space free search before.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you want to go by lot or lot attribute?
Let's do by lot. I mean, if you were only looking at one particular lot, you would want to do a lot. Now, here's something important. Like if you do have multiple locations, where I came from, we transferred lots between branches, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you left that location IDs just the way they are, you could see where every location this lot has touched. Even if it doesn't currently have it on hand, you'll be able to drill down into the quantity on hand field and see all of the ins and outs of that item.
Yeah, so this is probably a good time to mention this because I don't think I've said this yet, but
You do your timestamp.
one of the areas of pushback that I get when I recommend just using the manufacturer lot number as your lot number is, well, what if we get repeat, manufacturer lot numbers? First off, and I'm sure it's probably happened somewhere, but I have never seen a case where two manufacturers had the same manufacturer lot number schemas.
Yeah.
But even if they did, it really doesn't matter unless they're the same item.
Yeah.
Because the key, so in any database design you have for a table, you have what's called a primary key. So it's the unique characteristic of data in the table. So what makes a lot unique in P21 is the combination of the lot code, the item ID, and the location ID. Those three things can't be repeated, right? So you can have the same lot number on two different items, and it's going to be treated as if it were two different lots because it is two different lots. So I think that's... I don't want to say it's a fool's errand to sit and worry about that because, again, I'm sure, like I had somebody say, well, this is hilarious. Somebody was like, okay, but that's not going to work because, we'll buy direct from the manufacturer and then we'll buy from a master distributor that same manufacturer's product and we could receive in the same lot of the same item. I'm like, then put it in the same lot because it's the same lot.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
I mean, that's literally why they have lots on their products, because whether you're buying it direct or you're buying it through a third party, they know where that lot is.
I know.
Anyways,
keep it simple. Keep it simple.
So click on the quantity on hand, drill down. And this is just all your ins and outs. That's really it. I mean, it just tells you if document number, because it doesn't break down, because it's like all your pick tickets, your order entries, your movements. There's the bin movement. So the bin movement's actually there.
Yeah. And it's showing the in and the out of it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Like it'll show you when something is allocated, and then when it's on a pick ticket, and then when it's and if you've ever paid any attention to any kind of drill downs, it's the same idea.
Yeah.
Now if you did it by attribute instead of by lot number, which won't really matter for us here because we only have one lot attribute group, but if it like you were your main trace factor was country of origin, and you wanted to look at all of the lots that were, U.S., it would combine them all. By lot number and item ID, it's only... Well, that's not true. Because if you did have the same lot number for a different item, it would be listed here as well.
Yeah.
but they're not the same lot.
Correct. All right, let's try it by. I gotta close some of this stuff. I've got like 50 windows open, man. Not that it matters, but it just makes my eye twitch. Get out of there. Okay, so now we're gonna go. Drill down by lot attribute. Oh, I don't like that at all. I haven't done this one in a while. So you have to pick which attribute you're searching. It doesn't search across all of them.
Right.
And
then you have to put in that value.
Yeah, and I don't even like remember what I called it.
Well, just change it to country of origin 2 and just use US.
That's too easy. Anyone could do that. All right, test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's pretty smart.
All right.
Oh,
so,
I could have. It actually.
Oh, it actually has inline search. Nice.
It does. Yeah.
So just so you know, just in case I disappear, remember last week I told you AT&T came out and I have a cable going through my yard right now. They have to come bury. Somebody's out mowing their yard.
This could end poorly.
Yeah, if I just disappear, like if I just snap out of existence, it's because he hit. Even though I've mentioned to him many times, please watch out for the big black cord going across my yard. Just so you know.
It's right up there with the power going out here, so I don't know. Man. We'll just see what happens.
All right.
All right. So yeah, it's the same thing. We can look at this by that lot attribute. It's going to show us the different lots that have that. And then when I click on it, it does absolutely nothing.
Oh, wow. It doesn't actually give you the... Don't use this one. This one's terrible. Use drill down by lot.
The only thing it's useful for is to see if you have different lots for the same manufacturer lot number. My opinion. But
which is see, that must be a lot bin record because lot 26 is lot 26, but
right.
That one was for receiving location and one was for
A1.
But it doesn't. But it doesn't show you that.
Well, that would be useful.
All right, just use drill down by lot.
Okay, I will. I promise.
Okay. Really, the last thing. Let's talk about the lot tab.
Oh wait, IMI. We gotta do IMI.
Yeah, an IMI, and then that'll lead into WBW.
All right. So if we look at the lot tab in item master inquiry, this is where that traceable factor thing comes in.
Yeah.
It's going to show you, oh, hey, here's your traceable factor, and then give you whatever that code is as well. In this case, since we received it, it's going to show us that it came from this supplier. These other two lots, I think, were just inventory adjusted in. That's why it doesn't say anything there. Pro tip, especially if you're doing... Like if you're lot tracking things that you produce, like the assembly, not the components, right? Or if you're lot tracking things that you're doing secondary process on, or if you're lot tracking, things that you're receiving by POs. If you're printing inventory labels, there is a field in the label feed called originating document number. And so when you do the inventory receipt, that field will be populated with the PO number if it was a PO receipt, the production order number if you were completing a production order or whatever. So if you're trying to figure out, if you get into a scenario in your warehouse where down the road you're doing inventory, you're trying to figure something out, or you're trying to research something or whatever that might be, and you want to understand where did this item even come from, I'm a big fan of dropping that originating document number somewhere on the label. You can make the print small, it doesn't matter, but at least it gives you a tool to go back and figure out where did this material come from.
No.
Okay. And I think we've been over this stuff on other live streams before, but as I select lots up here, it's giving me bin data down at the bottom. so on and so forth. What else?
Checkbox will show you basically every lot that this item has existed in,
Yep.
even if it has no quantity. And then the bin tab is kind of the inverse of this. It's looking at the bin first and then displays the lots that are in that bin.
Yep. Cool. All right.
So really the last thing in here is the WBW. Who bought what lot? It's the last one. Pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, I mean, this is good. This gives you a way to understand, like, hey, this lot went out the door. Who all got it? And so you can set your start date however you want to. And it's going to show you everything that's happened with that item and where it went and who got it, when they got it, what order number it was on, what invoice number it was on, which would let you work back to a pick ticket if necessary. I do find that pretty handy. If you have a problem with a product, this is a good place to start to figure out how exposed you are on it.
Now, I do. This brings up an interesting question. So, lot 10872. That was already in the system before we added the lot attribute groups.
Yes.
Does it? And obviously, the traceable factor is required, but it doesn't go back.
Nope.
So that's interesting. So if you do decide, now we could go into lot adjustment and go edit that lot to have stuff, but I don't. Well, maybe you can. Can you?
Let's find out. Yeah.
Yeah. So now you can. Well, if you click OK, what's it do?
Nope. You have to enter your required fields.
Or you can hit cancel, which means you can still save. So it doesn't appear that you have to go back and update that, but there's nothing that's going to force you to.
And so I want you to, just think about that for a minute when somebody's trying to ship something and they realize, oh, this doesn't have the lot attributes. Now I got to go back to lot adjustment, find that lot, fix this so it can print on the paperwork, and then go home and complain about my life for the next 4 hours at dinner. And rightfully so. It's so, like, here's one that just drives me bananas. Country of origin. So if you're buying from a master distributor that sources from all over the world and they can ship you a product from the US one day and China the next day and India the day after that, and it's all under the same part number, and it's important for you to know the country of origin in your system. Because again, if all it matters for is when you send it out the door, you have to say this was made in the US or whatever, don't make it part of your inventory management because you don't care until you ship it. But whatever. But the one that gets me is we buy direct from overseas. Okay. So we need to make sure we're tracking country of origin on this product. And I'm like, why? You know based on the supplier is what country it came from. I mean, that's insane. What good does this do for you? So again, I just think that there are better ways to get it done. Now, if you're telling me that every customer you have requires this information, maybe it's government or defense or whatever it is, then it makes no sense to track it at the end. You would want to track it at the beginning because you put it in one time at the beginning and it automatically transfers to all the paperwork downstream. That makes sense. But if it's like Soyo's example where out of 1,000 customers, one of them cares, then why are you tracing it on? Like, think about it this way. In the MTA example, if I receive 100 lots and put the data in for those 100 lots, and I only end up shipping 2 of those lots to MTA, What a waste of time to enter lot data for 98 lots that will never be used and have zero value to the company. That's where I'm at on it. Okay.
I mean, really, the only last thing on lots there, and I don't know how much we need to get into it. There is also a WBW Who Bought What report.
Yes. But I don't think that covers you at the lot level, or well, you can choose to use lot criteria.
Right.
So you could put a lot in and say this is the one I want to look at.
Yep.
You can also do that with serials as well.
Yep.
So yeah, it will definitely give you some more data.
It gives you more than that one screen does. So if you're looking for, pricing, if you're looking for all kinds of other stuff, if you're looking for, or you could come in and just look at one particular customer. You can do that as well.
Yeah, so I think what you do there is that is like what you're talking about there. That's the perfect use for business rules. Is when you program a relatively simple business rule to understand that when we're shipping for this customer, lot documentation is required, and somebody has to put their initials on it, or they have to put in the lot numbers at the line level, and you're only enforcing it in the system when you need it.
Yeah, they don't have to remember to do anything.
Yeah, you just, like, rather than doing all of this other work, you just do a very light customization that says, we're going to enforce this rule when we need it. And you set up a checkbox on the customer's account that says lots required. And then any lot tracked item, you would enforce that rule. Okay, yeah, and here's your Who Bought What report, with absolutely no lot detail.
Was that one of the options that you need to?
I thought I did. Let's look again.
Scroll down.
I said use lot criteria.
That's for searching, but there you go. Show lot numbers. Down at the.
Yeah. Okay, you're correct, sir.
Yeah, I know.
It's just, it's just a difference in approach, right? And I think what happens is, and I'm ranting a lot because I like to rant a lot, but I also understand how it works, right? You're in the heat of battle. This requirement comes up. That is in that moment, that is the only foreseeable way to meet the requirement. There's probably an order sitting on the books right now that's 2 days late. So you got to do what you got to do. I get it. I just wish that, and my hope is that at some point companies take a step back and go, man, we're really saddling ourselves with a lot of overhead. Is there a better way?
Yeah.
All right, there's the lot data. Okay, I retract my previous complaint.
I just saw it says so-yo. So-yo.
Well, we were setting up customers the other day. It seemed like the way to go. All right. Let's see.
It's really.
I think that's it on lots.
Yeah,
2 hours and 23 minutes later.
Well, I think lots will be the biggest chunk of this conversation. No, we didn't show every single screen that you have to interact with lots in, but the important thing to know is on that bin lot tab, whatever the quantity to post, quantity to adjust, quantity to ship, whatever that little uneditable number is, that number at the bottom has to match it.
Yeah.
And that's true. Now there is some goofy screens like inventory adjustment screens where you're adjusting out on the line negative, but when you go to the actual tab, I believe it's a positive. Like there's some weird, and we'll get into lot and adjustments when we do cycle counts and stuff. There's some funkiness that comes with lots, I think. But I think it's better for an actual adjustment cycle count conversation.
Yeah, I agree. And there's another conversation I think to be had that's its own thing around lot documentation and how that all ties in. because there is some stuff there that you can do. I mean, you and I fumbled through it one day. That was our test live stream, like trying to figure out how to make all that work, and it was a nightmare, So we probably need to revisit that. I agree with you, Soyo. I lament that fact like every day. I'm pretty. I'm typically pretty vocal with managers and execs about that point when we engage with customers.
I can speak from personal experience.
Yeah, I mean, and there's times where I can be more vocal than others. Like we did an implementation for a company that I used to work for 10 years ago, and the CEO of the company is telling me, oh, this, and this. I'm like, dude, you don't even log into your ERP system. Like, I love you to death. You should not be making this decision. You don't have to live with the ramifications of it. And you really need to get people involved that have to do this. I mean, that's just what it is. And again, I don't understand why you wouldn't want to do that, because at the end of the day, that's driving a big part of your cost. So anyway.
Which is funny because they make it more complicated where they need more people.
Yeah. And then complain about their labor costs being out of control.
And that's not to say that you have a company of 100 people, everybody gets a say-so on the decision you make, because that ain't going to work either.
No.
It's the old, let's order lunch and there's 10 of us in the room. Thank God for, DoorDash, because everyone get with their own crap they want.
I will tell you the single best experience I have ever had doing stuff like this. So we had a deep desire to increase picking efficiency. I mean, we just didn't feel like we were, like, our throughput in the warehouse, in our distribution center just didn't feel like it was that good. I mean, we just felt like, wow, we have a lot of people here and we're running 3 shifts and we're not getting a lot of throughput. What is going on? And so what I said was, look, here's what we're going to do. I want you to pick, I think we had 30 people that picked orders for us. I said, I want 5 to 8 of them. I want you to pick the best, most positive person. I want you to pick some people that are middle of the road. And I want to also bring in the person who's the most miserable and vocal, and you just as soon shoot them as listen to them complain about the system. You make sure that person's in the room too. And we're going to buy them lunch, and we're going to be in there for 3 or 4 hours. And I want to walk out of there with a list of everything that makes it miserable to do that job. And then we're going to rank that list in order of, if we fixed this, we would get the most benefit, and then the next most, and the next most, and the next most. And when we're done, we're going to fix those things, period. Because I really don't care if we're making it a little harder to figure out something in accounting. For one person. I really care when we're making life miserable for 30 people. And you're right, it is a domino effect. So if you want to do that exercise, check out something called a fishbone diagram and how to use it. That's what I used. It is one of the single most effective tools I've ever used to try to get to the bottom of a problem or a set of problems. So check it out. It's definitely worth your time. Moving on to bins. So am I. I haven't used it in years, but
I took a course on that.
Yeah,
that's about as far as I went.
I did the whole Lean Six Sigma black belt thing, and it's very near and dear to my heart because it works. It's not a flash in the pan, even though some companies treat it that way. If you take it to heart and you do the work and you really sit there and figure it out, you can have an amazing impact on the company. But people have to be bought into it from the top to the bottom. That's the only way it'll work. But that's true of anything. All right, bins. Matt, when should we use bins?
hopefully, if you want to know where your inventory is, I mean,
right, well,
it's about inventory control. It's about visibility for me. Like, and it's also about, hey, here's Timmy. He's new. Let him go pick an order.
after we get him out of the well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You know, send Lassie with him. Hello. That's a joke that's older than both of us.
I know, right? Probably both of us combined.
But yeah, I mean, and when we say bins, it's not necessarily wireless warehouse. People always kind of, oh, well, you have to use bins with scan guns. No, scan guns make using bins better, I think, but I'm still a fan of bin management to a point.
Okay.
Like,
well, when are you not a fan of bins? Maybe that's the better question.
I'm not a fan of bins when it comes down to a micro level. Like, I don't want to tell somebody that bin A1-6C is the first 2 inches of a shelf. Like, because then the nightmare of, well, I want to move that 2 inches over to make a little bit more space. That becomes a bin move, and that becomes an extra. You know, I'm more of, like, I'm okay with going with a whole bay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as long as your products are labeled, which is a whole nother conversation. And I don't necessarily mean but just as long as they're clearly defined what they are, I want to get somebody to an area. Like, I just don't want somebody to have to look through a whole warehouse. I want to get them to an area. And then using stuff like pick sequence and things like that helps with controlling how people are pulling orders. Like, if you want to make sure the heavy stuff gets pulled first, so, you know, you're not picking, you know, light bulbs and then throwing, you know, wrenches on top of it,
yeah,
you know, as you're picking. I don't have a lot of good arguments for not using bins unless you are dealing with 10 products.
I think that's I think that's it. I think if you're dealing in an extremely limited scope of products, or your business is mostly about drop ship,
yeah,
or let's say, for example, you're selling bulk aggregates and stuff like that, where it's mostly outside storage, large piles of stuff, and you're taking scoops out of it. In those cases, bins probably don't make a lot of sense. It's slowing you down. I think one of the things that concerns me when people want to do bins is, well, we have too many picking errors. And so they think that implementing bins is going to fix that. It won't.
No.
So I've been through this exercise multiple times, multiple different companies, of why do we have picking areas or picking errors? And the number one reason you have picking errors in every time study and every study I've ever done has been misidentification of the product. The person picking it was not able to quickly and accurately identify the product they were picking. And that was the underlying cause of the error. It had nothing to do with the bins.
That's a callback to label your inventory.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Clearly label it.
Some way, shape, or form.
And you know, the item IDs in your system or your descriptions or something need to be clearly, especially if you're not using scan guns. I need to be able to walk up to something with a piece of paper and know, well, it's telling me to pick these widgets. Oh, that's those widgets.
Absolutely. And look, that doesn't mean you have to stick a sticker on everything that comes in. What it does mean, though, is that you need to look at that product and you need to figure out, like, what is it that makes this product easy to identify or ensures correct identification, and that data point needs to be on the paperwork. So what am I talking about? Well, let's say that you buy a bunch, let's say that you're in PVF, right? So you get, you're selling little PVC plastic fittings, for example. And you sell those, you've got boxes of them all over the place, but they all have a UPC code on them. Then get your UPC code on the pick ticket. Because at the end of the day, if somebody's not sure whether it's a street elbow or a regular elbow or whatever, they could look at the last few digits of that UPC code and get it right. Putting in the bin at the end of the day, I don't think that increases. I don't think that's a solution for bad product identification. I think it is a way to increase picking efficiency by getting people to where the product is quickly and getting them through the warehouse quickly and efficiently. That is where I think you get the biggest pickup on bins. I don't think it is a substitute for being able to clearly identify product.
I mean, because picking with a paper pick ticket is just a paper gun, essentially, or a paper
and that's fine.
Scanning
There's
device.
nothing wrong with it. You know,
I said scanning device is what I said.
Okay.
I did not say the G word.
Here's the good news.
We're not trying to.
We don't really have to worry about being demonetized yet.
I will say this though, and we've probably talked about this before. I think we probably talked about this in the wireless warehouse discussion. Plan your bins out, plan your layouts, plan your pick sequence all before you ever get into P21. And if you're like, you know what, we're not really using bins now, and maybe we will in 3 years, but we're going into P21. Turn bins on, set everything into no bin.
Yep, for sure.
Don't create other bins, just create the single, which no bin should already, I think it's almost always created in there.
Yeah.
Because once you are ready to make that change, it's so much easier going from no bin than going from
nothing. Yeah. No, for sure. So do we want to take another 5 or so minutes or 10 minutes so that you can get around, and then we'll come back and jump into the system settings of this?
Yep.
All right. We'll see you back here in 10 minutes. All right, we're back, and I did not get coffee this time because I feel like at this point it's not coffee, it's gasoline on a fire. So yeah, we do have to wind this down after 4 hours. So anyway,
I predict there will be less. Actually, I'm not going to say that. I was going to say there's going to be less soapboxes.
Cereals is still on the list.
Yep.
And I got issues there too.
And I think let's do kind of like a high level of bins.
Okay. You drive,
we-
sir. Tell me where you want me to go.
Well, let's go enable them. Let's go look at some system settings. Are there systems or are there location settings?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
So we'll start with system.
If you guys want like a super deep dive, like we did touch a lot on bins because they're so obviously tied into
Wireless
warehouse.
All right, let's see. So inventory management, serials, lots, and bins. Here we go. Take it away,
Use
sir.
bins. So here's talking about allocation again. So we had this system set up to allocate lots at order entry, but not bins. Theoretically, you can do that. I don't know of a real good reason.
Me either.
To because if you're putting an order in, it should really have nothing to do unless your product line is very specific about if we're saying it, we want it locked. This is
Here's where I could see it being beneficial, Matt. Is I can envision it in a high traffic front counter situation where I need to allocate those specific ones because I am literally going to pull this off of a shelf as I'm getting this order in.
Yeah.
So that I could see because you don't want a scenario where it's like, oh, I went there and it's missing or whatever.
Yeah, I get like if you don't have that on, when we were in the sales order, you notice we only had the option of selecting a lot. So, but if you did want, like if you had a showroom as a bin and somebody walked up to you and handed it, you want to be able to say, I'm taking it from showroom right now. It's a way to kind of but I don't know. I think it's very.
Here's my rule of thumb on this stuff, and it serves me well, even though the implementation of it is not always great. But I think if your guiding principle is, we want to delay as much allocation as we can for as long as we can, you're probably going to be less miserable.
Yeah. Assign bins at inventory return entry.
That I can understand, sort of, because.
Yeah, but it's an entry. That's weird though. Like.
Well, again, this is stuff that's going back to the vendor, so.
Oh, inventory return entry. Okay, that makes more sense because then you could put it into a bin that's not a sellable bin. Oh no, anyways, default primary bin and shipping. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. Like, if you have a primary bin, that's what it's going to use. Obviously, you would want that checked even if you only had no bin set up, because no bin should be your primary bin. The reason, when you only have one bin in the system and all your inventory's in that one bin, you don't ever have to mess with picking a bin. If you try to play around with bins when you're not set up for that and you create a receiving bin or a holding bin, or you then open yourself up to the potential to have to then start picking bins, even though 99 times out of 100 it's no bin. What are you looking at?
I was trying to remember what exactly happens when you do advanced bin tracking. I don't remember exactly what that means. I don't know if that's just, I can't remember if that means.
Like, does it record stuff? Because we never used it.
I think you have to use it in certain scenarios. I think wireless requires advanced bin tracking. I don't want a video. Seriously.
Well, here's something weird. Advanced. It's not showing up in the really good help file.
I can't remember exactly what it is, and it makes me crazy. Let me see if it's here.
You must enable Yeah, so if you're doing wireless warehouse, In addition to activating used bins, you must also enable use advanced bin tracking system settings.
Okay, here we go. Advanced bin tracking enables bin types, picking zones, and put zones. It makes them required.
Yeah.
And if you intend to use wireless warehouse, you have to activate this setting.
So again, if you're only using bins right now just for no bin, you don't have to have it turned on. But if you do have it turned on, you can always just set.
If you have, and if you have a dead simple warehouse layout, where it's like everything's pickable from the floor, it's nothing real crazy. You don't need to zone it out. Then maybe you don't need advanced bin tracking. But again,
if you go to wireless, you're gonna have to
use it. Yeah.
But if you're not going to use pick zones, you can always do what I see so many people do, just D for default. But again, we'll go into it a little bit on setting a bin up, but freeze locations during cycle count. I am of the mindset that if I'm cycle counting, I don't really want anybody else doing anything anyways. I understand that's not always perfect for everybody, but to me, and again, we'll go into philosophy of cycle counting, I'm sure, in great detail when we do that stream. Cycle count should be something you're doing a very manageable items, start of the day, get your counts in, then move on to your actual pick. And I know that doesn't work for every industry because some are so go all the time. It may not work, but essentially that would just freeze those bin locations from being used if they're part of a cycle count, or that's the intent. If it actually works that way, I can't speak for that.
You want to go to the defaults?
Yeah, I don't know anything about that defined weight.
So same thing, bins with 0 on-hand quantity.
I will say this: include bins with 0 on-hand quantity is if an item has moved through your warehouse to like 300 locations, it's a lot of noise.
There is a cleanup procedure for this, and I think there's a time and a place to use it. Okay.
Can you do it for hosted environments?
Yeah, it's through the UI.
Oh, it's through the UI. Okay.
Yeah, so it's oh gosh. Right here, item bin records.
Okay.
So what this will do is it will purge out any bin record with no quantity allocated or on hand, and it's not the primary bin. It's never going to purge the primary bin. It just shouldn't. Now, here's the thing. Bins with 0 quantity is useful in the fact that it tells you that inventory has been there at some point. So when you're doing a count and you go there and you're supposed to have 0 in that bin, you should have 0 in that bin. So this is my recommendation. When you can purge the records once you've cycle counted. Like on that list of items, once you know that all the 0 bins actually had 0 in them, and you're kind of at a reset point, so you're not going to have to go back and look through places where it used to live to figure out where it actually ended up, then I think it's okay to go ahead and purge these out, and then you're kind of hitting the reset button on that item. So from that perspective, it's the happy medium between I've got 300 0 bins because we random warehouse, and I need to know where this thing has been because we can't find it. It's got to be somewhere,
But they are nice to put some warnings on here. Do not, especially if you're going to wipe out thousands of item bin records, don't just do that in the middle of the day. Never do anything like that in the middle of the day.
Yeah. And do it in bits and pieces. You don't have to paint with a broad brush. Okay. Next.
Was there anything else in system settings? We kind of talked about how those kind of bins work. Let's look at location settings. I'm trying to remember what is actual. Where do you set up the default receiving location?
That is here.
Okay.
I think it's on the inventory tab, maybe. Yep.
Yeah. And again, if you are only using no bin, every bin ID in your system, any spot should just be no bin. Is there actually any bin actual settings in here?
No, I think it's mainly if you're going to require lot bin integration for items in that location. Are you going to have a default receiving bin for transfers and POs, and what is that going to be? Those are the main things.
Man, I feel like we've had this conversation before, and I think it's because we did.
Yeah. I know a lot of companies will receive directly into the primary bin and then they put the inventory away. And if you're not using wireless, I get it. But once you move to wireless, you really need to be matching up your physical process to your digital process. So if your physical process is we pull it off the truck, it sits on the receiving floor, we check it in, and then we put it away, then your digital process should be the same. You receive it, it goes into the receiving floor bin, and then you bin transfer it to wherever it's going to end up living. That makes your inventory traceable in real time. And it also gives you the data that you need to know to understand who moved what where.
And if you are somebody that unloads a pallet and you go stick that pallet of oil on an actual shelf as you're unloading, like you don't have that physical stop process. You know, we got 120 cartons, and you then receive it to the shelf you're putting it on.
Yeah.
But like you said, anything you do with wireless should just be following your actual physical process.
Agreed. 100%.
But we're not really talking about wireless.
No, but it all kind of ties in together. So, yep, that's pretty much it on the location level. And then where do you want to go from here?
I mean, let's pull up a bin and just kind of go over. Again, we went into the bin.
Well,
stuff.
yeah, let's cover like the setup with the zones and all of that too.
Yep.
All right. So this is location bin maintenance. There is an import for this as well. And this is where you're really going to define out everything there is to know about your bins. And we're going to have to jump to some other screens as we go through this, just because that's kind of the nature of it. I'm going to try to close off some of this other stuff so we can keep things slightly more organized. Okay. That's a lot more readable. All right, so we are looking at, right off the bat, you got to give it an ID. I think it's an 8-character max. So if you're greenfielding a new warehouse, you need to think about that. You can't have, is it 8 or 10? Maybe it's 10. Yeah.
It's 10, yeah.
And you know, you can't have a 4-part bin ID with dashes in between each part, and each part's got 3 characters. That's not going to work. So you need to be realistic about it. And look, I've seen this done a lot of different ways, as far as bin naming structures and whatever. If you're doing this from scratch, if you are working from a blank canvas, I will say that one way I've seen it done really, really well is a 3-part bin ID, and there's dashes in between each part and 2 digits per. So it's 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. So that gives you plenty of room. The first 2 digits represent the aisle. The second 2 digits, now this is for high racking, the second 2 digits represent the level of the shelf. So A is on bottom, B is the next shelf up, C is the next shelf up, D is the next shelf up. And then the third one is the actual ID of the bin. The reason that I really liked that is because we got into a scenario with a client that had their stuff set up that way, where their bank had come to them and said, you have to meet your banking covenants, you have to do a complete physical inventory, and it has to be done by December 31st. And this is like in September. And we're talking 15,000 bins. And so the only way to get that done is everybody gets involved, right? Well, the problem with that is not everybody is forklift certified. And so we were able to create this on-the-fly customization for them that said, I need to create a cycle count in P21, but I need to create a count by bin that only includes bins that can be counted without getting on a forklift. And because they had that height indicator in their bin, we were able to craft it in such a way that we could write some logic that said, go pick out the next 15 items, but only in bins where blah, blah, blah. And, you know, it's only on A, B, or C, not D, E, or F. That was extremely effective, and they got the count done in time. So I really liked that. I thought that was a good one. But again, you do what suits you. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day, but if you're looking for an effective way to do it, you have no idea where to start, that's not too bad.
So I ran into a problem. I've probably, I don't even count how many warehouses I've tried to set up bins in, and a lot of the issues I've run into. My instinct was always to start with alpha. My problem with that was I had more than 26 aisles.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went with the numeric 2 digits as my aisle, and then my alpha as my level, and then numeric as my, and so that gives you 99. Now, if you're going to have more than 99 rows, then maybe 2-2-2 isn't going to work for, or dash whatever, it's not going to work for you. But just plan it out. Like, actually draw it out. Don't just start naming bins and then realize, oh crap,
This
like,
isn't going to work.
this is not going to work. You know, so if your current building only has, 14 rows in it, I'd still go with numbers, because you never know, you might reorganize your warehouse. But if your warehouse has 90 shelves in it right now, or 90 aisles, you're gonna have to get a little bit more creative.
Yeah, for sure. And that gets into pick path design and all that good stuff. Well, let's hit bin type. That's next.
Okay.
We'll go over to bin type maintenance. And essentially you can create as many of these as you want. And it really just gives you a way to cordon off bins and group them in a like manner. But the other thing that you can do with them is you can specify whether they're puttable, whether they're pickable. If it's a quarantine bin, that has that has special meaning in P21. I've not done way station picking area.
I haven't done that or backflush.
Yeah, and I actually want to see if we can figure out backflush right quick, because I'm not 100% sure what that does.
Now let me ask you this question. So these are the defaults for these bin types, but you're still able to override them at the bin level, right? Or can you not?
No, like quarantine is based on the type.
No, I know that, but I'm saying, but like there's some of these, like pickable, puttable, those checkboxes exist also in the bin maintenance, location bin maintenance screen. So are you able to just override those? Oh no, you're doing the guided tour thing.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
I like the idea of what they were trying to do.
All right, if you missed the joke, we did the guided tour to figure out what way station and backflush mean, and it just gave up after quarantine and told us to hit save.
Oh my god, that makes I was actually anticipating waiting.
Yeah, there was a big payoff there that we did not get.
Oh my god, that was all worth it.
Let's try that again.
Wow.
Oh man. Okay, here we go. Way station picking area. If you select this, you place tag inventory on way stations and pick from them to fulfill orders. This is for pull to pick. Okay, I've not really ever used that. That's fine. The items in a backflush bin are not picked. You take inventory from the bin as you need it, and then enter the used quantity when you're done. So like if you're just grabbing screws out of a bin, and then what? I mean, it's like,
all right, so here's
put
the
it
process.
in here, but we don't really know.
Backflush processes. Rather than completing one individual with a system, okay, you just read that, right? Important. In order to backflush to a particular process, all prior processes must be
Okay,
marked.
that's a different backflush. That's in secondary process. I know how that works.
But I think the backflush bins are part of that process.
I've never used a backflush bin though, and I've done backflush on secondary process.
Because the backflush checkbox is... Yeah, there's a whole backflush process.
Well, so what that means is if you have 4 steps in a secondary process and you set 3 of them to backflush, you can complete number 4 and it will automatically
I got you.
Complete 3, 2, and 1. So
backflush.
yeah, that's a different backflush. This is this is amazing to me. It's like the items in a backflush bin are not picked. Okay, you take the inventory from the bin as you need it, and enter the used quantity. Where exactly do you enter that?
It is production. It says backflush. This bin only contains small component items for production orders that use less formal picking process. You'll take the components from the bin as needed without a pick ticket, recording their use later.
Okay, so I guess when you complete the production order, it just wipes them out of the backflush bin, rather than you having to go in there and say, I got them from bin A1.
Yeah, that's not something we really need to go over on this call, because I doubt it's going to pertain to very many.
Yeah.
But anyways, way station picking area means this bin is staging area for order picks. When you use one of those bins, materials pulled from the shelves, placed here, and then picked. Oh, so the way station picking area is basically double picking. Like you're picking to, like you're going and picking all these components or all these items.
Yeah,
off
it's pull to pick. You're pulling it off the shelf to get it to somewhere where you're going to pick it from.
Which one of your formal employers, I believe they have a similar system where they have somebody with a forklift goes down, brings down some pallets of stuff, leaves them at the end of the aisle.
Yeah, that was a little bit different. It
was really cool when I first saw it.
Yeah, so we designed this mechanism to all right, just quick backstory on this, but it's important. We had high racking, and then we had like way high racking. We had in our highest of high racks, we had two turret forklifts that could actually get up high enough to pick those shelves. And you couldn't get to it with a stock picker. You couldn't get to it with a regular forklift. And so what would happen would be the original process was if you got your pick ticket and there was something in one of those bins, you would have to basically hand it off to the turret operator, who would then go and pick it and pull it down. But then you end up waiting to get stuff picked a lot. This actually, I think, came from the fishbone diagram thing.
Oh, okay.
Where the pickers were saying we have to wait on the turret operator too much. So we ended up designing this report that allowed us to go and look out 3 or 4 days at all of the lines that were out there that were only available, or that the sufficient quantity was only available in bins that could only be picked by a turret, and we would give that to the turret operator, and the turret operators, we ended up running them only on third shift, I think, and they would go on third shift and start pulling down material and getting it out to the ends of the aisles, and we turned the ends of the aisles into bins, so they would just do a bin movement, and that way when the pick tickets kicked off, they would allocate to these into the rows, and that's it. You know, that's the whole thing.
Well, all right.
Cool. All right.
We gotta get moving.
Yeah. So yeah, I really hope you're using headphones or AirPods or something to listen to this, because the idea of everything we're spewing out going all over your office makes me very nervous. Okay. So picking sequence. Moving on. So we went through bin type maintenance and figured that out. All right. Are we going to pick lock or put lock this bin? There are some instances where actions you take can cause something to be pick locked. I think it's like if it's a damaged bin or something like that, if you report a bin as damaged. This is just an indicator letting you know if the bin's currently frozen for counting, the date that you last counted it. Max weight. Okay. So this is where you're saying this is the maximum weight that this bin can hold. I'm going to tell you right now, if the item weights in your system are not accurate, don't waste your time with this, because it's just going to cause you a lot of frustration, because it's going to say it's not going to take you to a bin because that bin is already full. You could do the same thing with volume. Consolidation bins, thank goodness. Consolidation bins are that is, I've done a project with this before, where you've got multiple people picking the same order, and they pick to a common bin. I think this is pull to pick, and then they grab that and awesome. That's fantastic. That sounds a lot more official than what it really is. But basically, whoever the first person is to deposit to that consolidation bin, then everyone else is going to be directed to deposit to the same spot. Door and staging I have not used before. Put away zone. Okay, so put away zone. This is with advanced bin tracking. And now you're starting to cordon off areas of the warehouse. And so a put away zone is, you're grouping a set of bins based on how you want to put stuff away. Pick zone is based on how you want to pick it. And that goes into pick path and how the pick path is determined. Pick zone sequence, warehouse sequence, these are the priority or the rank or the what order you want to pick these bins in. Dimensions, same thing, length, width, and height. Max unique items allowed. This is one where I think, we have a lot of customers who they have a lot of racking, but it's very small bins, and they want a scenario where there's only one item in a bin. That's the whole point. And so you can set that max unique items allowed to say we don't want more than X different SKUs in a bin at one time. And that kind of keeps things from getting cluttered up, where you've got a pallet with 15 open cartons and it's all these different items and you're trying to figure it out. Now, obviously you have to work within the constraints of whatever your space is and all of that kind of thing. So that's location bin maintenance in a nutshell. Did I miss anything, Matt?
No, and again, we go over a lot of the pick sequence stuff in depth in the wireless warehouse, but it's just if you don't have any kind of sequence in your pick or your put away, it's just going to go alphanumeric based off of item or bin ID, I believe.
Yep, that's correct. Which could be good or bad.
It can be good or bad. I would just say this: if you're concerned about actual sequence, don't try to program that into your bin ID.
Correct.
Actually use the part of the system for sequences for that, because that way, if you don't want C and D, because they're only accessible with forklifts. You want to make sure those pick sequences, so we're keeping people on the ground or keeping people completely picking forklift stuff.
Yeah, in my experience, the most common mistake I see with trying to just let the system do it alphanumeric with bins or bin IDs is when you walk down an aisle. Let's say that you go down an aisle and A is on your left and B is on your right. A1 is the first bin you come to on your left, and B1 is the first bin you come to on your right. Mm-hmm. That means your pick path is going to take you down that aisle, and then you're going to have to turn around and come right back up it and then go back down it again, because it's going to be like A1, A10, A19. Then you have to come back up to get to B2 and go back down to B4 and B7. So typically alphanumeric, unless you've really thought it through, doesn't work so well. There's a couple of different ways to deal with it, but I like warehouse sequence better because it allows you to have very fine control over it. And more importantly, in almost every warehouse, when I get to the end of the aisle, right up against the wall, there's another, that's a bin area too.
Yep.
And you want to be able to pick that one up as you're turning the corner to go back up the next aisle.
Yeah, my years and years ago at this point, we tried to use bin ID to do that. And so my genius idea, it worked, but it's not logical. So like A1, 2, 3, 4 went down this side, but on your right side, it was actually A was on this side. So it's A1 through whatever. On B side over here, B1 was at the end.
Right. And it went in reverse order. And you're right. It's counterintuitive because
right.
Yeah.
It works, but trying to explain that to a new person doesn't make any sense.
Correct.
Because what you end up with is A1 on your right and B20 on your left, which is just illogical.
Yeah. And quite frankly, it still has you going up and back the same aisle.
Yeah. Yes.
So
that's true too.
What you really want is a warehouse sequence that is A1, B1, A2, B2. So you're just picking from left and right. And when you get to the end of the aisle, you're off the aisle.
Yeah.
So, okay. So we talked primary bins. We talked pick sequence. We can do bin adjustments, I think.
Yeah.
All right. So talking about bin adjustment, I think there's two different versions of this. There's bin adjustment, and then there's bin inventory movement. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure I'll remember what the difference is when we get into it.
Bin adjustment is just like lot adjustment. We're just moving the same quantity around.
Between bins.
Between bins.
Yep. So, I don't know, can you actually create... I don't think you can create a lot here.
I don't believe so.
But if you absolutely can insert a line. Oh, no. So if you right click on a row and hit insert, it's going to insert for that lot.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we want to move part of lot 1123 back to rec, and we can say that's going to be 100. Now that's going to be 100. It's the same thing that
you can't
do it because it's allocated.
That's allocated.
Yep. Oh well.
That's something important to we didn't really mention on lots either. You can't move anything that's allocated because the pick ticket has and this is hard allocation,
right?
Because the pick ticket has been printed, or you have it set up to pick a bin at or assign a bin at order entry. It says, hey, this bin and lot have already been committed to this transaction.
Yep.
So you'd have to go unallocate that if you needed to.
Okay. So yeah, same rules apply. You can't create or destroy inventory here. Whatever quantity you're supposed to have total, that's the quantity you have to end up with.
Which I think the problem is everybody assumes inventory adjustment is adjusting inventory quantity.
Yeah. So bin adjustment must be, it's not the same thing. So then you also have bin inventory movement or inventory bin movement. Bin inventory movement.
And this is essentially a bin transfer, right?
I'll let you know in just a second.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this This allows you to then say, I want to take this and move some quantity of it to A2, for example. I like this screen a lot. This is about as efficient as it gets for trying to get stuff organized. So if I wanted to move 100, I can just do that and save. And it is a little bit quicker when you're trying to consolidate or clean things up or whatever. Oops. And then when I get back into it, now you can see it's created that record for A2 lot 26. So I like that. You know, if you're doing a lot of bin adjustments, but what you're really trying to do is move things into another bin, take a look at bin inventory movement. You might like it better.
Yeah. The use case for the other one is the bins already exist. You're just trying to adjust the quantities of both those bins, not trying to just move to a completely new bin.
Yeah.
I would still say this screen can do both of those scenarios. So that would be my suggestion.
So I'm looking at Soyo's last comment there about everybody asking if she's on the phone. And I'm having this vision of that Seinfeld episode where George is like, yeah, I just look completely annoyed all the time and people leave me alone because they think I'm busy. Oh, man. So, all right.
I think that's really, I mean,
yeah.
We touched a little bit on in the lot tab or in the item master inquiry where there's a bin tab. I don't really think we need to go into that again. Let's talk cereals.
Let's talk cereal, and not the good kind. This is not Lucky Charms.
No.
If anything,
I had Fruit Loops today.
If anything, it's Unlucky Charms. This is like the bane of my existence because I think this is the one that you can fall into, and a lot of times you don't really need it. But okay, here we go.
Now I will say this is one of those ones where if you turn it on later, it's not as hard to
get out of it. Yeah,
to get it, and or there's no, like, if you turn lot tracking on an item that isn't currently and it has a lot of quantities that aren't in lots, you have to go do lot adjustments to move all those into
some lot. Yeah.
With cereals, if it's not turned on, you can turn it on the item, especially if you have it to capture even if you have a capture on outbound or inbound, it will, you'll capture it on the outbound, basically.
Thank you, I think. We're great white noise.
Wow.
I feel like that was coming from a good place.
Wow. That's... Man.
All right. On to cereals.
Yeah.
So
you notice we don't have those turned on our play system.
No, we do not. But if you want to use them at all, you need to enable them at the system setting level. Now, getting into dimensions, slab and stone processing, things like that. The slab and stone thing is specifically for like people that do like countertops where you're doing, big slabs of granite, and people come in and they have picked, I want that piece of granite for my countertop because I like the pattern in it. That's what this is kind of about. Track outbound cereals only. So this one's kind of a big deal. The system will allow you to only enter a serial number when the material is on the way out the door. So when you receive, when you adjust in, when you do
in transfers,
stuff like that. Whenever the inbound transactions will not require you to use serials. I feel like a lot of times this is probably a good default place for people to start. Inbound serials, I mean, it is like if you receive in a quantity 100 of something and they're going to sit on your shelf for 6 months, you're going to be putting in every one of those serial numbers when you try to receive it. That is tough.
Well, and I think it's important, like a serial is a one-to-one.
Right.
with a quantity. It's not a one. It's not a lot where it can have multiple quantities. It's one.
Yeah. Quantity 100 means you enter 100 serial numbers.
Right.
Period.
So I'd 100%. I always unless there's some. I can't think of a good reason. I am. Oh.
That's a good game.
Outbound. Outbound is the way to go. Like that's to me that's if you're gonna do serials. To me, the reason to do serial is who did I send it to? Who did I send this machine to? Whose is it? And that's why I like the outbound. But that's just me.
Yeah, and I mean, especially if you are doing warranty work and, or you're talking about these are very high value items or
you repair items. Like that's what we used to do them because we would repair like a lot of fitting machines. So.
Yeah, and that that's a whole dimension to this that I definitely had in mind to talk about. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this on for outbound only, just so that we have the ability to.
Now, just because it doesn't prevent you from going in and still entering a serial number if you want to. It's just not going to make you.
It's just not going to force it. Now, I mean, the reality is that means you're not going to have a serial number for everything that you have in stock in the system. You know what I mean? That could be a good thing or a bad thing. Again, it really just depends. I just find that in most cases, when people are tracking serials inbound, in a lot of cases are punishing themselves for no reason. Because again, it's not about whether or not the serial number is important. I get it. It's important. It's really about when is it important.
Right.
And that's the part of the conversation that I think gets lost. It's like, oh, you have stuff with serial numbers? Here, you need to turn this on. Whoa. Are we certain about this? And we have customers who everything they sell has a heat code on it and they don't track lots in their system. Okay. I mean, that works for them and that's fine. Okay. I
can see the favorites are still set up from when I drove.
Yeah. No reason to change it. Okay. So we need to pick a different item. What do we want to pick? I don't know.
Can you have something that's lot tracked and serial tracked?
Yes.
That just sounds horrible. Can we just create a new item where we're only doing serial?
Yeah, I mean, I think you pretty much have to be psychotic to do that to yourself, but
because you're not gonna be able to turn track lots off on any of these.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's create an item. I tell you what. Let's see. Let's do serial item.
And if you're interested in creating items and all the do's and don'ts, was it 2 weeks ago?
I think so.
Yeah, because that was the last one we did before I had my surgery.
All right, so we're not going to track lots. Okay, so your options here are no, yes, and then you have a third option called service only. If you're using service and maintenance, which that's how we run our service desk here, is it all runs through a heavily modified service orders. Mm-hmm. But for us, like we came up with I think a pretty clever way to implement serials, because when you do service, you are compelled to use a serial number. You have to. Even if you're just making one up, you still, like every time you service an item, it has to have a serial number. So, like for us, all of we have an item code, a service item called like Profit 21 Consulting or something like that. I don't remember what we called it, but and it's a serialized item, service only, and every customer has a serial number, which is their customer number. What that allows us to do is type in the customer number or do an inline search for the customer's name. That is their serial number, and it populates half the order for you just right off the bat. So it makes getting the orders in really easy. But you're not failing on any of those. I like those games. I liked Modern Warfare. I think was probably one of my favorite Call of Duty. I'm off tracking again, aren't I?
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at me like, hey.
Yeah, what's 3 o'clock? It's 3 o'clock.
I'm sorry. Anyway, it's not my fault. So, and then your other option is, yes, we want to track serials. So we'll set this one up to track serials. And let's go through here.
And I do think we'll go more. I think like we'll touch on the service order. Like we kind of touch on the service order only. But I think we're planning on doing.
Yeah, I think we have a session on the calendar for service orders. Default prices. I don't need supplier list. I think we're should be good now, right?
Yep.
Let's see. I know it's going to make me do product group. Oh, nope. Must have been an item defaults.
Oh, you didn't check your... I always hate that. Like, if there's only one unit of measure...
Just check it.
Just check them all.
All right. So, we're tracking outbound only. So, I'm assuming you want to do the PO or do you just want to adjust it in?
Let's just adjust them in.
I'm sorry. So, I can't talk about games. Matt will get mad at me.
I mean, if we want to do a PO, we could show where you could put it in at receiving, even though we're not.
Okay, we can do that.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's just not put 100 on the quantity, please.
No, I was thinking like 2.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so again, if the idea is to track huge groups of items, serials are not your answer.
Yeah, unless you have some specific regulatory requirement or something. I mean, it better be worth it. That's all.
And most things that come in, I mean, it's going to be your high dollar stuff. It's going to be your machinery type stuff. It's going to be
electronics.
Like that. Yeah. I mean, like if you're dealing in graphics cards, maybe you get a serial number on that and you want to be, but just know you're going to have to, you're going to have a lot to deal with.
All right, there's our PO. All right, so our serial tab is now lit up. And this is whether or not we're going to do anything. So we're not compelled to put serial numbers in, but we can.
Nope. Yep.
We should just be able to go ahead and save this out. They're going to go into receiving bin. Now, if we did not check outbound serial only, then it would be telling us, nope, you have to enter serial numbers for
right.
both of those. All right, now we're going to go to orders. We'll just do one of them. Okay, so that's out the door, and that's it. We don't have to do anything here. Oh,
no, it's actually
it's a quote again. Ugh. I'm just going to right-click convert it. I'm not doing this again. Yeah, I know. Okay, I can, again, enter a serial here. Don't have to. All I would be doing is allocating it. So you can see, like, it's giving you... I'm not really sure what reserve does. I've never really played with any of this, but we don't have to do anything yet.
Did you check print pick ticket?
Yeah. We'll go ahead and create pick ticket.
Now, if you, here's where I will say I can make an argument for doing serial numbers on receipt. If you have, say you have a database with documentation on a machine, what specs it was tested at and all this, and you want to make sure you're sending that specific machine or whatever it is to a customer, by picking it at the sales order side, it would print on the pick ticket that go pick this serial number from this bin. So there is there are some products that maybe the customer requires you sending test requirements for that device. Maybe. It's funny, like I find serials less complicated than lots.
It's the 1-to-1 ratio that kills you.
Yes. Like I would, like if for machinery, I wouldn't want to do lots as their serial numbers because it would be idiotic. So you can just try to save without putting on it, and it's just so fish.
Number of serial numbers for the serial item does not equal the shipped quantity. Okay, so now I have to give the serial number.
How many did you put on the order? Just one?
Just one.
Yeah. So if he had put 2, he would have had to add a line.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't think there's any kind of guardrails on the serial number field as far as what you can and can't put in there.
No,
as a character length.
We've done some stuff for customers to do validations, like to make sure it meets a certain pattern for certain types of items and things like that, just to make sure people aren't maliciously complying. But yeah, that's about it. All right, so that's kind of how you transact through it, and then you have, let's see, I think there's an inventory drill down by serial. So if we go in here and say I want to find, I could have just left that wide open. So this is one thing that I actually do like about the way this works is it's telling you whether or not you have that serial number in stock, and if you don't, where is it? Well, it's with customer 10002. That's actually pretty handy. And then
can you drill in? Does it show you, like if you click on the cut, does it go to the customer or does it go to? Okay, I thought it was going to show.
Yeah, it's CMI.
What sales order and stuff.
Yeah,
there it is.
Yeah,
there it is.
Click on that and it tells you what's going on with it.
That's interesting. So the pick ticket, that's weird that the pick ticket is what it's when we shipped it. So it should be the shipment.
Well, I mean, it kind of is.
Oh, that's true. I guess.
It's not. I would have thought invoice maybe, but
that's what I mean by shipment.
Yeah.
Is the 3 number, the number that starts with 3.
And then I don't know. Yeah, if you go to the serial number tab in IMI, you can show shipped serial numbers, and it's going to show you.
Okay, there you go. That's what
what went out the door that way. Yeah. And if you had serial numbers in stock that were unshipped, those would show up without clicking the show shipped serial numbers. So I like that. And then you have serial adjustment. Now this, if I'm remembering correctly, can be very frustrating. So I think let's say for whatever reason, like this wasn't right, and we wanted to bring this back in house, or we needed to change it to in stock, or whatever that might be. Now it's like it's kind of messed up, and it doesn't really work when you only have one left. But I believe the way this would work is if we had 2 left and we were bringing this one back in stock, it's actually going to force you at this point to put in the rest of the serial numbers that you have.
I think if you try to save here, it's going to, because you're trying to say you have one in stock when it doesn't match your. No,
Yeah, see, that
Oh, it
matched
does.
because I said I
Oh.
have one and this is it.
Oh.
So it's letting me do some stuff that I really... Now, let's see if we can actually unravel that. And that might be the way that we kind of show how
That's
this
real
works.
weird to do that.
Yeah,
Like,
so that is kind of where, because it's outbound only, I think it does let you get yourself into trouble. So I can assign this right back to the customer.
that seems really...
And now I have one on hand. I just took this serial out. So I just reversed what I just did, right? Oh, it'll let me do that. I guess because of outbounds. Okay, well, I'm not going to complain then. Maybe they.
But I don't understand. Does it actually put it in stock, or is it only saying the
Nope.
one quantity that you have, the one quantity you have in hand? That is now.
That's the serial number that you have.
Oh, I don't like that.
Mm-mm.
Oh.
So I think you have to be really conscientious about who has access to this, because you can do some real damage here.
I see. So what it did was, the one that I currently have on hand now became serial 9876. Ew, I don't like that.
Mm-mm.
I don't know. I think there should be another step to it if it's customer owned. Like, I don't agree with that at all.
Now see, I can do this. Then if I try to put another one in, I think this is where it's going to burp. Because now it's saying, wait a minute, you only have one on hand and you're trying to say that you have two serial numbers on hand. That doesn't work. So it's not going to let you save. So you would have to take this one, which I don't like this either, because it's actually going to let me create a phony serial number.
You would just need to clear and start over.
That would be the right thing to do. But it will absolutely let you just do that. So I have seen companies really get into trouble with this. And the unfortunate thing is, the time that I saw it the worst was, you would think that for the most part, when you sell something and it's serialized, that customer owns it forevermore. But when we were working with the medical equipment company, like, you'd have this fetal heart monitor, and hospital 123 would have it for 6 months. And then down the road, hospital 234 would end up with it. And so it was very common for a serial number to change hands from one customer to the next. It would come in for service, it would get repaired, it would get shipped to another location of another hospital or to another hospital group completely, because these things are just floating around, right? So again, I think it's just something you have to be really careful with. But for the most part, I would say, before you go down this road, make sure that you really, really, really need it. And why you need it. Again, if you're just trying to say, like the example I gave at the beginning of the live stream, where, hey, look, we really just need to know where we got the serial number from, and we don't care after that. Well, then that's fine. Let's create a way to do that. Or if you just need to say, hey, look, I need to be able to record a serial number on the way out the door, but I don't need it to be part of inventory management. No problem. That's totally doable. So the difference between needing to know something or needing to have a history of doing something versus making it a core part of the way you manage your inventory, there's a lot of difference between those two things. And I think that just gets overlooked a lot.
Yeah.
So, what else are we forgetting?
My brain is kind of mush when we almost get to the 4-hour mark.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. I'm warmed up though, because I was on for 3 hours last night on a call. So see, like, the extra hour isn't phasing me at all, which scares me. But anyway, so, well, we're 3:45 in. I think we've covered everything. Yeah, I can't think of anything else. So that's what we've got for you for Cereals, Lots, and Bins. We really appreciate you guys hanging out with us today. And I don't think we've picked our topic for next week yet, but it will probably be, well, the next one that was out there was cycle count.
Yep.
So I guess we're going to talk about cycle counting in physical inventory. So that will be a barrel of monkeys.
It's all kinds of fun.
Absolutely.
We're gonna fumble through so much stuff on that.
Maybe we should actually try to practice it between now and then, just a little.
No.
A little bit.
No. All right, maybe a little.
All right. We appreciate you guys, and we look forward to seeing you next week.